Hey everybody, it's Arkheim Ra and Kat Aphelian, and we're here with Don Rogers and Canadian Spinja. And am I saying that Canadian Spinja? You're right. Yeah, of course I am.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
why I did that wrong. And we're supposed to be having Rob and Rob Kalil of Typical Skeptic podcast, as well as Nathan Ciszek joining us. But we'll see what happens there. But the topic of the show today is like being in the secret space programs. It's really the only way to say it. Being an asset for time corporations and having alters and all the things that come with that. And I did send Rob a link. You sent him a link earlier. Oh, somebody in the chat said that Rob didn't get a link. Well, I can resend him one.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I. Oh, fuck! I didn't send him a link. Oh, jeez.
Take a moment, everybody. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. No shit. It's my fault this time. All right. I got
Shit
the
happens when you party live.
link for him.
There we go.
We're live now. All right. These things happen. That's part of doing it live. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you pre-record, when you have those little hiccups, you just edit it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd still love doing it live, even though that shit happens all the time. It's worth it.
It's fun.
He said he's gonna come.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna say, well, that's suggestive. He's like, I'm coming, finishing. I'm saying, well, that's suggestive.
Winky face.
Okay, well, I said, I laugh out loud. See you soon, bud. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
Okay. Right on point with the subject matter, I guess, too, huh? Yeah, so maybe you guys could introduce yourselves, who you are, and then go into like how you met and just what your lives are like together, I guess.
I'll start off because it's actually the reason I'm here is because the SSP aspect of my life is last fall I basically had this succession of really insanely violent and graphic military style nightmares where I was fighting like unhuman reptiles, and it was night after night after night after night. Like it was just haunting me. Like I couldn't sleep. I was waking up in night terrors. She couldn't sleep within 6 inches of me for fear of getting smacked. Like, and it was actually you on Rob's show that I didn't even watch podcasts a year ago, much less have one, much less be on them. Right. So like, she's like bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. She's like, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. So I watched your episode with Rob, and man, I've told you this before. I ended up in tears at the end of it because it wasn't the exact same experience, but the things you were explaining and the way it felt when I heard your words, it hit me on an emotional level that I knew that that's what was going on. And it really just kind of jump started my awakening because of that. Like it really brought to light this whole understanding of being targeted and everything, because like, you know, I was living the typical 3D life before any of the nightmares happened. And like I was just doing a 9 to 5 and, you know, doing what you're supposed to do. I'm paying my bills, I'm paying my rent, I'm paying my, you know, just living the typical 3D life. I didn't explore any of this.
It doesn't give you time to.
Yep.
Exactly.
The only reason that I've had time, like I was on a deep dive because I had a lot of questions. And yeah, the only reason I was like had the time to find that show was because of my job. I'm an industrial sewing machine operator, and they let us listen to whatever we want while we're working. And so I figured like that was a great time for me to do my deep dives, like, and answer my questions. That's but that's the only reason I
That's
had
an amazing way to do it too. You're, you know, doing your 3D stuff, doing what you have to do, but then like also like activating yourself while you're doing it, which I kind of can I'm familiar with that too. Like I remember I was like driving around, like I was working for a dry cleaning company, driving around like giving people uniforms and stuff, and I would like listen to like Penny Bradley and stuff like that.
I'm gonna put her in the bathroom. She's been kind of distracting. Sorry, Mo.
Yeah, it's okay. And then, but yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing in this modern age where, despite the fact that we're forced to, it's part of life. We all have to work. It's not the most terrible thing, but we're able to still expose ourselves and um, I'm glad that you were able to figure things out while you were also getting paid. It's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, and she was such a important catalyst in me understanding any of this, because like this was just crazy nonsense to me a year ago. I didn't listen to, I didn't know about any of it, right? I thought I was just going to live the life I was living, and that was it. I didn't know about alters. I didn't know about other versions of your consciousness. I didn't know about any of this. Like, so over the last year, she's basically given me the cliff notes on like, these are the things you need to understand. Like, I can see what's happening to you. She's actually been guiding me more than I've even understood my own journey.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in for sure. There's a lot.
Yeah, it sounds
to
like
learn.
she's taken on a similar role to the way Catherine has been for me. Because the way it happened for me is like, I've known her just through just living in the same town and being like into like alternative music and stuff like that, I guess would be one way to put it, right?
Yep.
We just kind of knew about each other. And when I came out publicly about all this stuff, like it really interested her. Whereas a lot of people in my hometown were like, probably like, well, I know like a lot of people in my hometown were like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
She's like, wow, she's done some research about some of these like satanic cults and things like that, and it lined up with things that she already knew about,
Yeah.
sort of. So she was more like able to believe it.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't know anything about like the SSP stuff, but I knew about like the MK Ultra stuff. So when he went public, I was really, I was interested. Like I wanted to find out more about what was the deal there. I guess you could say. Yeah, and then we started talking and like hanging out and stuff, and then we hooked up eventually, and we've been joined at the hip ever since, I guess you could say.
Yeah, but for her it was like for us it was like very much so like she thought that like I was experiencing this and she was learning about it, and she didn't really think she was evolved at all. And now it's come to the point where like there's been a lot of things that have happened where like it's very much so proven to her and me that she's also involved in these programs. And even like it's gotten so crazy, like I alter out, I turn into other people, and I've seen her do that now. So it's kind of strange how, because I'm sure you've also, Spinja, you've also probably figured out you're involved with this stuff as well. Like you're not like impartial to it. You're also involved. Is that correct?
With Monarch.
Yeah. It's like since Dawn, like since we figured things out about Dawn, I'm starting to piece things together now about my own life that was not normal. And it was happening long before Dawn was in the picture. And I mean, even they've even gone so far as to use my son as a tool to keep me in the loop. I've had to my ex was he was military, and I'm just piecing all this shit together now.
Yeah.
And he was.
Oh, we got people here. We got new people.
Awesome.
He I won't get into everything, but yeah, I think a lot of stuff went down because of his position, and yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I guess one important thing, I guess, from being a person who thought that they were just a normal person coming into this is if you are attracted to, if you have a crush on or whatever, if you want to date somebody who is publicly an SSP person, then I guess a bit of advice that I have is if you think you're a normal person, be prepared to find out that you're probably not.
And the reason it was weird for us is like you guys met because of the culture. This happened like 3.5 years, 4 years into our relationship, just this new stage of my understanding of myself.
Sweetie, it was 6.
So sorry. Yeah, I'm not good with time because I'm barely in it. But no, like this whole experience just kind of popped off, like I said, about a year ago. So we both had to adjust to the understanding of all of these things that have gone on with the other versions of me.
Yeah, and there's and like I've said this before, but like there's so much, because this is such an important topic, I feel, because like in the programs, like relationships are used against you either, or they can also be used positively probably as well. I don't know, but they can be used against you. And also being public about this sort of thing, like people are gonna think you're nuts. A lot of people are.
Yeah.
And that makes things extremely difficult. And with the aspect of the altars too, that adds another layer to it as well. So I figure I've had this show in the back of my brain for a minute, and I figured it's a very important topic to go over. There's a lot to discuss there for sure.
Yeah. So we got, for the viewers, we have Nathan with us now, and we have Dan Armstrong with us, and now guess what? We got the very excellent, awesome
Thanks, Rob.
Rob Kalil. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
We're doing
Hey,
great.
man.
It's a privilege to have you here and an honor, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know,
I like that. Did you laugh at what I said to you when you messaged me? That was pretty funny, bro.
yeah, that was funny.
Right on topic. So yeah, I don't think Rob really needs an introduction. He's from the Typical Skeptic podcast. He's like the Art Bell of the modern age, like helping whistleblowers and like people who've had paranormal experiences get their word out. His show's done like over 1,500 episodes and counting. He's just a machine going at it every day. And we got Dan Armstrong with us, who's also an experiencer. I've had him on the show in the past, and he's been on Rob's show and everything. And Nathan as well. And you guys can maybe start with Rob and go to Dan and then go to Nathan. You guys can kind of all introduce yourselves, I guess, maybe, and also if you want briefly just talk about what it's like, your life's been like trying to navigate romance or love and that aspect of the social life, because that's a huge aspect of anyone's social life.
It's very important to
and
a lot of people.
And just kind of maybe some of the fuckery that goes on, because we've experienced it. I think we've all experienced it, so that's kind of the topic. So I guess I'll just hand the microphone to Rob, if that's okay. I hope I'm not interrupting anybody. I have ADHD, but he showed up and were we on something before he showed up, or are we good?
I must have been on something because I thought it was 10 p.m. I'm sorry for being late.
Okay.
I was even telling people that too.
Okay, I thought we might have. I just made sure that I wasn't didn't cut anybody off or anything. But but Rob, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and just kind of talk about that?
Okay, so I have a really interesting story, and it really relates to your topic of conversation, and everybody here knows about it. I know Nate knows my story, and Dan knows my story, and Dawn and Spinja probably know my story because everybody watches my show and, they're familiar with my situation. Dawn and Spinja have been a part of my Discord group, and so is Dan. So they know my story really well, but I'll just tell it again for your viewers. I got out of a really bad relationship 1.5 years ago where I thought by the way, I'm Robert from the Typical Skeptic podcast. I cover everything under the esoteric, spirituality, consciousness, UFO, super soldier banner. I mean, just to give you an example, today I did a show on I don't even know, I can't even remember. I'd have to look. It was one was on amanita mushrooms, the other one was on targeted individuals and orbs, or I should some orb footage, and then the other one was on the psychology behind self-sabotage. So that gives you a good array of the different stuff. It goes all over the banner. But anyway, so I had a really bad, I got out of a really it wasn't that bad of a relationship. It was really good at first. It was a year and a half ago. I was with this girl for a while, and I thought she was the love of my life. I thought she was like a twin flame, you would say, or like a mirror version of myself. But then I started, as I started getting deeper into like the phenomenon, the things that we know now, I started thinking that like maybe it was an alien love bite, or maybe it was an engineered relationship, or maybe even, there was maybe some CIA involvement. I can't prove any of this, and because it was just weird, the way that things happened were very strange. Like it started off like so perfect and everything was good, and then it turned all to shit. And then like 3 months afterwards, I manifested this pain in my liver, which I still have. I can't even eat. If I eat, my pain, like my liver or gallbladder hurts. So I'm like honestly on a fast. Matthew Morning told me to fast. I've been fasting. But I mean, I have people trying to heal me and stuff like that, and I'm really grateful to all those people. Eve Howard, even Priscilla, all the different people, Selena, they all try to help heal me. But the pain still keeps coming back. But it manifested 3 months after the relationship. So I started thinking, well, is this too much of a coincidence, or was this done on purpose to target me in a way that like I couldn't even imagine, And then knowing the things that we know, I have to question those things, I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it totally makes sense. A lot of times it seems like what we run into in these programs, or just in general here, when you're into this kind of stuff, is like handlers, and like they're not sometimes they're just trying to keep you away from like the paranormal and like figuring out what happened to you. But other times it's like just emotional sabotage. They try to emotionally sabotage you and make you weaker, because that's a really easy way to control people, and that is how these programs do control people, like pretty much like
like thinking that your partner is a handler. That's like a huge thing that comes up over for a lot of people.
Sometimes it's true, but also like sometimes people are just paranoid. That also does happen, just to be clear. But like yeah, it just sucks because you have to be really careful when you're, because they can like put people in your life, and they can manipulate you through the people they send in your life and sabotage you and stuff like that. So that's something that we all have to keep in mind when we are entering like the social realm of romance, you know what I mean, and meeting people and trying to find someone or whatever. So, and I guess I'll move on to Dan. You can introduce yourself and maybe talk about some of your experiences.
Yeah, just as you're talking about that, Arkheim, I just was prompted to bring up the fact that, when we're looking at even a lot of our births, we should understand that there was some matchmakers putting our parents together in order to get certain genetic profiles to begin with. So that's just a whole other angle to look at.
I'm certain that I won't go into detail, but I'm certain that happened with me and my family, just based on the circumstances of my parents and grandparents. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Yeah, and I was having a really good talk with a couple of people yesterday about that. In fact, how different genetics are mixed, different types of lines are mixed, and in fact, you tend to have one. A lot of times, I'm not saying it's the case in all places, but one bloodline may be more on the virtuous side from the one parent, and the other one quite the opposite. And they're really big on mixing and matching those blacks and whites and trying to get things towards their ideal genetic candidate with the various side talents and so forth. And this ties in with things like family curses and bloodlines and everything else. So I think there's a whole backdrop behind this to see that this is a maybe more important part of the force of the relationship engineering that occurs. You might say to yourself, well, I don't even understand how I'm together with this spouse, or how those two people even made it a marriage. But it's because they wanted that marriage. They wanted that offspring. And I think the best way to think about it is
I've given an example of this in my my book, where I don't know if it was the genetic profile or just having them as my parents, because there's a lot of confusion with artificially putting people in lives with surrogate mothers, and they're not even your real parents, which is what I think happened to me. But I do think that they put my parents together, because this is like an interesting thing, and I talk about this in my book. Like my father grew up on Vine Street in perpendicular to Mary and Wood Street, which is my mom's name. Like, it's a subliminal message. Would Mary, Mary would Mary. Like, You know what I mean? Wood, Mary, Mary. Like, and he saw that like every day growing up, right? And it
Yeah.
just kind of seems like there was some manipulation to put them together and make them my parents. And another weird thing too is like I remember other timelines, and I know that my current life is like totally 100% fucking artificial. Like it was made by time corporations. And I know this because I remember living in Appleton during the same period and having very similar life, but having different parents. So I actually like know this guy who is this student named Billy, and I actually took him out to eat to tell him you were my dad in another reality.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I believe you. I've always felt connection with you. That explains a lot.
Yeah, if you saw them together, like this guy, they look alike. They've got like this guy's like hair, a similar nose. Like if he had introduced me to him and been like, "This is my dad," I would have believed him 100%.
Yeah, so that's just a really weird aspect of things. And then the other thing is like I know my first like original birth now, and I'm not actually a Taurus. I'm a Leo. I wasn't born in May, so like that's fucked me up my whole life. Like I'm sitting here like reading the wrong astrology charts, like thinking that I was born in May when I was not born in May. Like that's just in this lifetime. But originally I was born in I think was August 5th, I think is when I was born.
Yes,
August 5th is
I
my
remember that.
actual birthday, which
I can see you being much more. Yeah, you definitely
Yeah,
personify
he's
Leo
supposed to
more.
be a Taurus,
more
and
of a Leo.
Tauruses are like homebodies, like who just want to stay at home, watch TV, and so on. And it's like he's not like that at all. Him being a Leo with like, Leos are like performers and stuff, right? And that makes so much sense for him. And people have said,
Look at the hair.
too.
The hair alone tells you he's a Leo.
Yeah, the hair.
You know?
Yeah.
I've actually seen myself.
That's his
I know I've
vein.
been a Lyran before, and I've actually seen myself shift and seen like my hands look like Lyran hands and stuff. And I've also seen this with Susan Long. I don't know, she's oftentimes in the chat, but when I was at the Journey to Truth conference, I straight up saw her shapeshift into like Lyran for a little bit. Like a moment, just a moment. She looked like a Lyran. She had like the fur and everything. It was crazy. So I think that's an aspect to it of the shapeshifting is like these forms are holographic, and that's just like different versions of ourselves coming out. Like something is what I think it is.
Arkheim, I can back that. When I saw Susan at the Full Disclosure Now, there was something different about her too, like than what I saw on camera. It was like she had an ET aspect to her. I can definitely know what you're talking about. It's cool.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It's like it's nothing bad. It's not like reptilian or not.
Well, even if she was, like reptilian, like we all need to remember that not just reptile doesn't equal bad necessarily. There just happens to be a lot of really bad groups that are reptilian. That's all. But
yeah, it's a good point.
It's like people from Iran thinking all Americans are bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, vice
It's
versa,
like,
right? Like
and you
obviously
can't really
there's lots of
blame
good
them, but it's
people
also not
in
true.
America.
Yeah. So Nathan, you want to introduce yourself and just kind of say like who you are, and then some of the that you've experienced in your life, maybe?
Yeah, sure.
I know there has been some.
Yeah, you saved me for last because it's a long list, I guess. I just want to apologize tonight. I've got a major ass kicking headache, so I'm not going to be funny or I'm just going to be dull tonight. But my life started as shit. My mother was a 17-year-old runaway. Her parents got divorced, and so she ran away from home and was living with various people. And she got pregnant with my father, who was the son of immigrants from Russia. That's all I really know, because I never got a chance to meet him. He left before, I think I was about 9 months old when he left. So he was physically abusive and tried to kill her cat. I know that about him. I know that he drank, I believe, but other than that, and his name was Walter Ciszek, and he lived probably about an hour and 15 minutes from me my entire life. And he died at 52. I pretty much, I feel very strongly, and I can't take what the handlers would say to me, because it's usually some sort of mind game. If it isn't, and even if it isn't, you still don't know if it's true or not. But I think he was the other MILAB, and because there's nobody on my side of the family that matched anything like that. And then when I found out that I was being used in Russia by defense actually, I think it's probably, the regime over there, Putin's regime is using one of my altars. I don't know what the exact arrangement it is, but so I think that's the link there. Now, everything was kind of semi-normal, not really, because my mother, she gave me up when I was a year old to her mom. So I was raised by Laverne, which is my mom's mom. And so we lived about 10 minutes apart. So it was just a really odd arrangement to have your mother living separate and then not having a father in the picture. I had a stepdad that came into the picture. It's very, very dysfunctional. Now, that was the start of it. And then after that, it's been a series of what I would call secondary surrogates, because that's what the handlers actually refer to them as. Not so much secondary, but as a surrogate, meaning that as they made me sick throughout my life and prevented me from working, and I went through multiple spine surgeries, heart failure episodes, the long COVID shit, and everything else they've thrown at me, they've made me dependent on people. So back when I was 19, I met my wife, I'm still with, and we met at a concert. So it was everything was great. I mean, everything was fine for about 7 years. And then I got hurt on the job. And then, we were cohabitating with family. And then it just never got off the ground from there. I mean, I got sicker and sicker, had to have more surgeries. And what they did is they started the contact, but under not really a theological facade. It was more of it was a theological facade first, and then it moved into an ET facade, and then it became in your face, military. But that became very disruptive in my life. And there was a lot of times where, I would say things and I would mention things, and that didn't go over well. The main thing was what really fucked my marriage up was when they started to do what they call personality rearrangement, and they started to blend me with some of my alters, and I had no control over it whatsoever. The first thing they did, and this was like, I mean, this will definitely wreck a marriage in a lot of cases, especially for my age, is when they change your sexual orientation. So I would say that started to shift around 28. So I went from hetero to pretty much anything goes, and so that took place, I would say, over probably about a 2-year period. It was just like more of a feminine personality shift. And then I just noticed other things that were shifting in me. And then I became kind of a different person. I started to wear different clothes. Everything started to change. And for me, it felt good because I felt like I was becoming who I was supposed to be. But in fact, it was an alter personality. And I'm thinking it's my higher self, and they're feeding me this shit. As this was happening, I'm being fed this line that I'm in an engineered lifetime. I'm undergoing a type of trauma therapy where they induce trauma for therapeutic results. So, and then they had me convinced of that. And then when I started to shift, they were telling me that this was going to be therapeutic, that I could be more of who I used to be, my higher self and all of that. And that literally absolutely destroyed my marriage. I mean, besides for that, the fact that I was sick and injured and everything, and the fact that I was denied healthcare for a long period of time, I went 18 months before I saw a doctor after I got hurt at work. It took literally a year and a half to see a doctor. And just literally everything went against me. I had lawyers go against me. I had physicians go against me. I had the company I work for go against me, which is what I expected. I also had, workman's comp go against me, which is expected, but it was to the level that it was too extreme. There was abnormal things going on. It was just fitting a pattern throughout my life. So what they did essentially is they drove a wedge between my wife and I, changed my sexual orientation, and then started to add, the love bite stuff. So the first thing that they did, I got involved with the satanic cult because I was subconsciously programmed to do so. And that was 2003 was when they put that programming in. And I found the cult in 2005 after looking for 2 years. And from there, that was the virtual temple complex experience, which lasted approximately 7 months. But the contact didn't. It continued on. And in that process of being in that cult, I met a trauma twin, and we had no idea that we were actually trauma twin. But he would have memories of being chained up to an opposite wall where, they were basically just beating the shit out of me until I was unconscious. He had memories of that. He had a memory of actually had an experience when he woke up in a vertical tank. He was leaning against a wall in a high school, and he leaned up against, I think he was like half in and out of sleep when he phased into the altar, or he phased into a clone or something. But he and I, had contact, and we talked. And what happened was they brought out these intense emotions to the point where he tried to commit suicide after entering the Air Force. And I had 5 years of post-traumatic stress disorder from it. And I had to deal with this completely alone in a relationship where I'm under pressure and nobody's understanding what's going on with me. Nobody's being receptive. There's nobody to talk to. I was trying to go public for a long time. I would email different researchers and people. I was never getting the right ones. I was using mostly the ones that you see on, TV and stuff like that. And then a few others that I'd seen in, various YouTube videos, but I never got any reciprocation. It was, except for one person responded to me, and they actually said I was a MILAB, which I totally flat out rejected because I had an aversion to the subject, apparently. And so that happened. And then to make matters worse, after the 5 years, it was right around 2020, just after the pandemic started, they brought me together with somebody else. And this has been even more painful. And this person is apparently a spouse from a past that I have before I was captured and put here. And this is the person that this is the person that I have the most difficulty talking about. So I need to stop for a few minutes.
Did good, Nate.
Yeah, thank you for sharing so much with
you.
us.
That's a lot of
Take your time. for
really
sure.
personal, intimate details that maybe are hard to share, but also like there's things that you're not the only person who's dealing with some of these things.
Yep. Yeah,
And,
that's why we're all
your
here.
testimony will assuredly, I'm sure, help at least a few people, if not many more.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. I'll get back to it as soon as I get it together. I'd like to finish it, but it's just, I broke down in a support group, trying to talk about this before. So I don't know.
One thing I want
really
to ask
difficult.
Rob is just to give you some space as well, Nathan, is I know you interview like a lot of people, you interview a lot of targeted individuals. Like, are there any like patterns that you see or like things that they do to people that you notice that like you've seen it more than once, you know what I mean? And you kind of like recognize that it's like a tactic that they use when it comes to this stuff? You ever know, like, because I'm sure you've noticed like a lot of people talk about it, right? Like the targeting in relationships and stuff like that. I think your microphone might be off.
Oh, sorry, I got it. I think they use different tactics. I mean, but it's pretty standard. The gaslighting. Basically the gaslighting, the V2K. I don't know. I mean, I can give you an example of something I thought might have been a little bit targeted the other day. I had someone on my show, and it was a really good show. And then, like, after the show, he started sending me 1,000 messages, and I'm not going to name his name. And I was like, I started picking up on the pattern after a while. I was like, holy shit, this dude's gaslighting me. And it was like, this is bizarre, but I mean, it's like the gang stalking. But I don't think we see much more. Some people have physical gang stalking. I know my friend Sal, she gets a lot of physical gang stalking. I guess it just depends on the person. A lot of people get electronic interference, a lot of the stuff that's coming up now, what Amanda Joan of Hart talked about is these self-assembling nanites that they're finding people because they want people to merge with AI. That seems like a big thing. So I guess it's all over the spectrum,
As far as the physical gang stalking, we actually just went to
3 weeks ago.
a metaphysical fair in Drumheller, Alberta, and it's legal to smoke weed here. So it was the end of the night, and we kind of went up onto this embankment where like nobody has much business. Like it's a kind of cut off trail up in an escarpment and like way out in the middle of nowhere. So we start smoking weed. Within minutes, there's a group of 4 people, probably 15 to 20 years older than us, cup of coffee in hand, each one of them just walking in stride to exactly where we're standing. Right? So we're like, okay, we see them coming. We start back down the hill. We go to a different area. All of a sudden, that area is just littered with people as well. And we're like, okay, this is just getting weird. I want to try something. Let's go over here. And within seconds, there was another group of people with cell phones and flashlights out standing right on the other side of the fence. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
And then we could even see them on. So there was a river, and then across the river, we could see lights. It was like they were communicating through like with lights, and it just, and no matter where we went, and like throw in the power outage too. Like it was just,
yeah, like the whole section of town that we were in ended up getting the power cut that night, and it was never explained why. Like it was just a weird night.
That is weird. That's strange.
Well, I guess the main thing is, you know, when you look at the underlying pattern for a lot of it, so they can, like, you think about like the ultimate result of like gang stalking and TI activity is to get the person to socially isolate themselves, right? Like to break off all their connections with their friends, their family, their support systems, and then to drain them of their finances so that they're extremely vulnerable people. So that's generally the corner you're painted into. That's the purpose of TI program, nothing else. And
above all, Dan, it makes to make them look crazy because anything
absolutely.
that you say is going to make you look completely insane. So it's almost like you can't even tell people some of the stuff that's happening to you. I mean, they'll think you're a paranoid schizophrenic.
Throw in a bit of V2K, right. Blah 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 blah. We'll just throw the kitchen sink at this person. So like you're right, that's a big thing. And then so I look at it here with these relationships, right? Some of us know that some people who are single might be like, well, at least you got a relationship, but people who have been in relationships know that sometimes you're at your loneliness in a relationship where you can't be your actual self with your partner, who's supposed to be the person you share everything with. And then of course, you know, socially isolating some people so that they don't have a relationship. You know, I'm a very affectionate person. I really need a relationship. You know, I'm just that kind of person on a certain level. I like to be that way, but so that's withheld from me, right? Like when I even look at my astrological profile, probably the thing I'm meant to do more than anything is to like have a family and cultivate a family. So that was exactly the opposite of what would be engineered for my life, right? The other thing that's sort of weird to look at it with this relationship stuff, and it was a bit of a surprise to me, and I'm just going to give my personal experience here, but I went through a pretty intense period a few years ago where I was getting everything. I was getting TI'd, MILABs, everything, all in a condensed period of time. And I was engineered I often refer to it as my Mexico period, because I was there for like 6 months when this is all going on. But one of the things that was revealed to me at that time, like, because a lot was revealed to me, a lot of bullshit, but also, and then a lot of deep truth as well. So it started with the deep truth, and then it would get mixed in with everything else. But I noticed even one of my partners ended up being in there. Like I had a dream, and I saw my partner, and then I saw an entity come out of my partner, namely a reptilian entity, my former partner from like back in China. And I realized that, and I was like, oh, wait a second. And I did some intuitive delving into it. And, you know, he too was part of the programs, but through a different avenue. His father, if it's no different than masonry. Like there's any of these things, military, various forms of military, masonry, or the Communist Party, which is also a Masonic institution, which was the case of him. His father was, a high-profile member of the party because he was like this nuclear engineer, and he became a member of the party as well. And so what I understood was, this the ritual where he got inducted into these sort of darker programs was through that affiliation, and it was very difficult, right? Because I was sort of shocked, and it really scared me because I realized how manipulated we could be, that we would be, there can be these relationships that are engineered as well, because it's just, it's all part of this grand game of fuckery.
Yeah, like for
we're
instance,
dealing
a
with.
staple of the programs is trauma twin programming, which is, they, to paraphrase it, is when they bond you with somebody at a very early age, and that's the only person you're allowed to show affection to, and then they use that person to control you. And a lot of people think that if you find your trauma twin in the here and now and you get to be with them, that it's going to be some great thing. But usually, I would say more often than not, and I'm sure Susan Long would agree with this, it can be really detrimental, because that's the whole point of them existing, is they kind of like to get the gears turning and hands off. They like to do things that way. That's one thing that a lot of people aren't understanding, is like they'll program people to corral each other into their own prisons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what they did to me.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it can be sort of and if you're someone like him who knows who it is, it can. I'll be real with y'all. It's like it's made me like, I'm a human person. I feel jealousy and stuff. I think I've dealt with that admirably. But we're all human. We all feel jealousies. But just the fact that he's willing to be like open with me about certain things just shows me that, how strong we are, and that I don't really have much to worry about, I guess you could say. But if you're with somebody like him who like has these memories of like being with these people, like if you're someone like me, like that is gonna be that's something to watch out for. That's something that might drive a wedge.
We'll be upfront about something that happened to us pretty recently. Is where we met somebody who was in the programs I met her through a live stream with Rob, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been with her at Montauk. What they would do is groups of 5, and 5 men, 5 women, and they'd switch us out, and to try to get us to never really be attached to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I cared about her a lot. And now I saw her on Rob's show, and all these memories get back, and it moves really fast. I tell her how I remember her. I basically explained to her I'm with Kat, and I don't know if I can talk to her because I'm in love with her. And then like we had this idea, like, well, we could be in like a polyamorous relationship with her because she likes women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that didn't work very well because she had one of her handler exes show up.
Yeah,
and, like,
that's the thing.
Yeah, and we told her as it was happening, like, this guy's a handler, like, this isn't gonna go well, and like we don't want to be any part in this anymore. And I don't know, it caused a lot of friction in our relationship.
Yeah,
like
it was
her like showing up out of nowhere, and,
Yeah.
like my alter coming out, like my alter Jacob was coming out.
Yeah,
Like,
I was mad at Jacob for a bit.
yeah, because he was like talking to her about all this stuff, and like I don't know, like before I really like we agreed it was okay, and it's something that's happened to me numerous times where there's more than just her. There's other people in the community that I was at Montauk with who I have really strong feelings for. We have romantic feelings for each other, but we're not with each other in this lifetime. But just the fact that that's like hard for her to deal with. I know it is. Like, so that's another aspect of that.
Yeah, that's something that I was not prepared for initially. I guess I should have been, but that's something that I was not prepared for. again, I think I've dealt with it pretty well. Obviously, we're still together. We're very strong as a couple. I guess if you're going to be in this type of relationship, I guess it helps a little bit if you're like maybe willing to at least consider polyamory, because like I mean like there's like alters of his that like are in love with me and have been with me, but then there's alters of his
Yeah,
that
we're
are like
polyamorous
afraid.
just by having
Already.
alters and dating each other. We're polyamorous.
Yeah,
already.
like
Yeah, technically.
yeah.
Like we're already polyamorous. Like, you know, Edward shows up. He's a totally different guy.
Yeah, he is different. He's not musical like he is.
Yeah.
Like, he's a poet.
And a painter.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's totally different, and it's like she can testify to like when she goes on dates with him, it's like dating a totally different person.
Yeah, it is.
So there's just it's a roller coaster
and
dating.
you want to know something else
Yeah,
wild
it's a lot.
is my alter Cynthia, she was with his alter Ryan Sterling, and Ryan Sterling passed away, and then after that she got with Edward, which is another version of him, and now so like I like this guy quite a lot, as you can see. Yeah, it's happened many times before.
At least you guys are making it work. I mean,
you
you
need
can
a love
imagine just a regular person having to deal with this stuff. And for anybody out there, you know, life's hard enough. Then you got all this on top of it. I mean, it's unbearable sometimes. And if you don't have anybody that understands it, you're all by yourself, then it becomes a hell. Then it becomes just hell.
So,
You know, it's like Hellraiser. Everybody's got a personal one.
because we have like Arkheim and Kat. That's us. Obviously, we're a couple. Don and Spinja are a couple. Are you guys are single, right?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
No, I'm still
So you-
married. I'm still married.
I'm single. I'm single.
So you're not single, Nathan, then?
No, and there's a lot of us that wind up, you know, actually we start married and we get a divorce, and then there's a lot of people just never get into a relationship because of all the things that we've talked about and more. And they live solitary lives, and it's I mean that would destroy me. I couldn't do that. You know, they would just be like sitting in a prison cell every day. And
Well,
technically, that's the way I feel right now, and I'm in a relationship.
Yeah,
It's like, how do you get? I don't have much experience with being single, but it's like, how do you even like approach something like this when you're like on the scene looking to connect with someone?
Oh my God, that's the scariest thing that I can imagine. It's like, you know, what do you say? Oh, well, there's all this is going on. I mean, here, let me show you my podcast.
You know how hard it is in the gay community just find somebody who hasn't been jabbed or have the monkeypox shot? Like 98% are jabbed.
Yeah, because they're all
Their mind
brainwashed.
being, well, it's just it was pushed really hard on certain communities more than others.
Yeah,
You know, and it's like, and they'll even engineer these relationships so that that person seems like the solution for you, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the case of this fellow I was talking about earlier, you know, like he had the total solution for my life. Oh, here, move into my condo. No, this isn't my condo. This is our condo. You get it all. You get the whole life with me. You get stability. You get the relationship. We have the, you know, good intimate time together, the whole bit. Let's get a dog instead of having a kid and all of that. And it's like they're also engineering it in a way where you're going to compromise your own self in order to get these trade-offs.
right. Because you're
Like, that's
hurt
part of
and
it.
you're desperate.
Yeah. Right. And then like, oh, what would be the perfect solution? He's so unstable. He wants permanence. He wants security. He wants this. He wants that. So let's give it to him. And then, but in a way that it's compromising you. Well, you know, for me, it's an easy decision when somebody puts fake books on their bookshelf. It isn't that hard of a decision for me, but that's a big thing in China, because you know the whole thing with the Cultural Revolution and people being intellectuals and persecuted. Nobody
So they
wants to
have-
actually be known as being an intellectual.
So they're fake books. There's nothing really in them.
No, it's just empty. It's an empty book, and you get the
Yeah,
whole
just the back.
series and you put it on the shelf. I was
Yeah.
like, that's a big no for me. I
The
can't.
encyclopedia for the illiterate.
That's strange. I've never heard of that before.
That's
Rob,
for people that always say that's too much information.
Well, it goes with
Yeah.
the
They don't
faux
learn.
brick. It goes with the faux brick wall. You get the faux brick wall, and you got the fake books.
And the
It's
plastic.
all part of your
Yeah, the fake
you
plan.
know, it's all part of your fake life. You know, I joke in Vancouver. You know, they put down
Yeah, I
that
got that song "Fake
AstroTurf
Plastic
sometimes.
Trees" by Radiohead. That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah,
And
I
if you
think-
notice, every time a politician will sit and do an interview, it's a white bookcase with books in the background. Almost every time.
well, it's because
Yeah.
they're very learned.
Yeah, they want you to look. Yeah,
Hey Rob, so I'm kind of curious about, like, you know, and if you don't mind us asking, I'm sure a lot of the ladies in the chat are curious. What is your you know, romantic life looking like now? Like, do you have any prospects? Is there anyone you're talking to that you're interested in, or like is it, what's it like being like the Art Bell of the modern age and like navigating romance? Is it difficult?
I don't think I'm the. I mean, I wish people thought of me that way, but I don't think they do. But I mean, like, you know, I talked to a couple of different ladies. I mean, like, but I mean, like, they're just more like friends. Like I used to be like really. I was like what you could call. I'll just admit it. I was addicted to sex. You know what I mean? And like I always tell people, like, you know, women were a big downfall of my life. You know what I mean? It used to like run my life. You know, that's when I was like a really 3D thinker. But now I've transformed to where, like, you know, a lot of my friends are females and they feel comfortable around me. Like, it was a big step for me going to the Full Disclosure Now conference and having a roommate that was a female, and I didn't hit on her. I didn't try to have sex with her. I didn't, you know what I mean? I just kind of was like cool, and I was respectful the way a gentleman should be, you know? And I don't know. So I think I'm making big strides in that. It's not like I'm a wuss or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm just starting to respect, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
No,
So I feel like if it's going to happen, yeah. And I feel like if it's going to happen, it'll happen eventually. I was supposed to go see Priscilla. We had something, and then we kind of stopped talking, but she still says I can come see her, but she lives all the way up in Quebec and I live here in Pittsburgh. So that's hard. So we both realize it's hard. So we kind of just stay really good friends. And then, you know, so that's kind of, yeah. But I mean, you know, I am single, ladies. So, you know, I don't know.
So yeah,
Nope.
everybody knows how to get a hold of him. He's on Facebook.
yeah. You need to find you like a rich handler, Rob. Somebody with like
Well,
a
no, it's just-
reptilian
another
physique and
question that I
Seduce
have
me with
too-
a good package here.
I have,
Come on,
I have
guys.
another-
Give me a good sellout package, at least.
I have
Yeah,
another
exactly.
question, and this one's for you, Dan, and I hope this isn't too personal or anything like
Please.
that, but
Yeah.
you know, obviously you're a gay man and
Yeah.
you're in the disclosure community, and there's been a lot of like pushback against the gay community in the disclosure movement now, and there's like this talk that like if you're gay, that basically means that you're a pedophile, and it's the same thing, and accepting queer people is the same thing as accepting like maps or whatever, because it's just that's what it turns into. And I'm
Wait,
kinda
wait.
curious that I-
Wait, before Dan answers, can I say something real quick, Arkheim?
Yeah.
You guys would probably agree. Like, if you study like the old school ufology stuff, it's not just like anti-gay, but it's very like Caucasian. Like the Pleiadians are Caucasian, and like there's never
Yeah.
many mentions of like other races of aliens or like a gay
Yeah.
alien. You know what I mean?
I
It's
guess
always
I
like a
guess- I guess
Caucasian.
the UFO community has always had problems.
Yeah,
like this.
that's
It's
why a
not
lot of like
new.
full color
Which is
ones
really weird, because you think that people that are like into talking to aliens and like physical and like you know doing peyote or whatever, you think they'd be like super duper open minded, but I really, because I have talked about this on my show before, and I'm pretty sure I even have had a few people unfollow me, unfriend me over defending the gay community, over the fact that I'm like, look, the two things aren't the same. That's false equivalency. False equivalency is a form of mind control. And I'm just kind of curious, like, yeah, like, what has it been like for you? Because you've got, you know, you're obviously anti, I don't like saying it because of the algorithms, but the censorship,
Yeah.
you're anti that, and
Monkey
you
juice.
said the queer community is overwhelmingly for that, and then you're also into this disclosure thing where they're not for. So you have like two things pulling you away from these two communities that you're a part of, that you care about. And I'm just kind of like curious, like what that's like.
Yeah, and it's happened it's happened within the truther community here in Canada too, because that's got hijacked by Christian fundamentalists and these types of people, right? So it's like those were your people at one point where we're supposed to be like accepting of each other and trying to be supportive of each other with you know, government that's trying to kill us, and quite literally, and doing everything in their power to destroy us. And then those people turn on you, right? Because I even went out of my way. Like, it was very hard to even get employment in order to keep that, like, to keep my my body less defiled, shall we say, from the gibber jab. And so there was a lot of employment I couldn't do. And in Canada, a lot of employment is directly government related. Like 1 in 4 jobs is a government job. So you are excluding yourself from that whole pool. Then any major corporation was discriminating as well. So you're out of that
And
pool.
I had it a lot worse. Like I'll be honest with you. Like, I'll be totally transparent. Like, I was like a musician, and like I wanted to tour again. I wanted to play shows. I didn't want people to like be mad at me for doing it. So like I actually went along with it, and it was because of that pressure.
Oh,
And
sure.
and it's funny because, like, you know, and I was kind of more asleep, so I was like, oh, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize like how fucked up it was at the time, but while I did it, I did feel it was wrong. I could instinctually feel I shouldn't be doing it, even though I was kind of lying to myself. Does that makes any sense? But yeah, I do think that there was like an aspect to it where even a lot of people who didn't want to do it felt pressured to just do it. But what's crazy, what I saw here in the United States is just too many people said no to it for all that to work. Like, I know Canada had it way worse, like where like they actually were enforcing it really hard. I know that
you couldn't
like,
go into a restaurant. You couldn't do anything. There was a 6-month period where we were barred from everything except grocery stores.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave the country. This was Eastern Europe for about a year. You couldn't actually leave the country if you didn't have it.
That close to checkpoints, like military checkpoints.
My job, like when we were back in Ontario, I was working in a sewing factory, and it was run by a man who was ex-military. And when this all came down, he actually gave us papers just in case they set up checkpoints, because he was telling us that was a possibility.
And the government itself even did a scare prop campaign of they created their own false news to feed into the truther community about setting up internment camps and everything. So they even did begin like the appearance of that, so that people would be terrified. Like it was much worse. Like, I get very annoyed because people focus on the stupid bank accounts, but there was things much worse than that. Like, I can go see my mom when she's in the ICU. I couldn't even talk to my mom on Zoom because the hospital was controlling things. I couldn't go to her funeral because I couldn't get on a plane. I wasn't allowed to after they decided to kill her, right? My last conversation is, get me a lawyer, get me out of here. And then she's dead 3 days later, right? Like, it was very intense. So I don't mean to bring that up, but just to understand the atmosphere.
oh, it's important to bring that up.
Yeah.
No, like there's things bigger than your bank account out there, you know? And I really wish people would understand that the human cost that came with it. And you have that community, and you're like, okay, we're supposed to like stick together through thick and thin, right? And then you get these people, it's like they just want to go back to some like old timey goodness of like Little House on the Prairie kind of sociology, and that doesn't work for everyone. And so, you know, they released, because there was the AstroTurf agenda, you know, like the fake grassroots movement with the LGBTQ stuff. And what people don't understand is that's not done by the gay community. That's a corporate and government program that's pushing it, right? Gay people, especially gay men, are way too busy trying to get laid and going to the gym to worry about politics, okay?
Isn't that a Vanguard project?
Not interested in doing all of that kind of stuff. They just aren't. Like, it was hard enough to even get other things. Sorry, Nate?
I was just saying, I think that's something Vanguard is working on, other corporations, you know, basically they want to push a stereotype to create a lot of problems in society to where there's a pushback against gay community. And it's all basically a weaponized human rights movement from this point forward. But it's these corporations that are pushing this really extremist agenda that turns people off and gets everyone fighting about it.
Yeah, they do that with like everything. Like it seems like they inject themselves into movements, and they're like, "See, that's the movement. That's what it is. That's what they are." And it's like, hell no, like, that's not what we are.
And saying, well, you're this, therefore you have to be supporting this, right? Like there was a point in Canada where if you were gay and you weren't going along with the agenda, it was like people didn't believe you were gay, or that you're like, there was this thing like you have to go with your group. We're shuffling everybody into their camps.
Yeah,
and then I think a lot of this is designed so that the pendulum swings back the other way. Don't doubt for a second that all the conservative politics that's going to start emerging over the next, it's already beginning. While it's needed to counterbalance some of the excess that was created, that excess was created on purpose, because at the end of the day, it's all about driving a sale, right? The whole point of the dialectic is so they can move towards their goal. So we shift you left, we shift you right, but all the while you're still moving forward towards their goal. And that's what's really important here. So I guess the point being with this and saying about that with me is I just had to like sort of self-impose celibacy on myself because there were no options. That's my extra, blessing to come from all of this, so to speak. And then I even got a job, right? Like specifically in teaching, because that's my background, specifically got a job at a nature camp for kids, for people who wanted the kids who are, unjabbed and not going along with the
Rob,
whole
can you turn off your mic
thing. And, that got turned against me. And I know in part my sexuality was used against me within that community, because people only want to think the worst about people at times. Even if you are a lovely person and you're taking care of their children and you love their children and are kind to them, they will be like, well, you know what? I don't like the fact that he's bringing up the fact that our kids have some serious issues as a professional and he wants to address it. Let's just throw him under the bus and say he must have problems and issues. And, so I had a friend, I had literally a period of not this previous May, but the one before that, where I had my law group for studying, emancipating ourselves from the system. And I led that group for like 8 months. That group turned against me. And one of the big things about that was my sexuality. Suddenly my friend who is a truther within that was like, no, you have a demon. It was just like, no, you have a demon. That happened to you. This is it. And she looked like she was demonically possessed while she was talking to me about that. So they destroyed and targeted my law group. They destroyed and targeted my job. They destroyed and targeted another friend that I had that was, he was all jabbed in that, but we were still friends. And that all it was just like everything all at once. And you're like, and so you put it right, Arkheim. And I'll stop in a sec here, but it's really hard when you just keep not belonging to anything. Like you're like, even the place that you're supposed to belong, you don't belong anymore. And
that's what they do.
Hard.
That's what they've done that to me. Like it's a big program. Like for instance, like growing up, like I'm the song guy. Like they've stolen a bunch of my music. Like I wrote like NSYNC, like Celine Dion songs, like old 50s love songs, like songs by The Weeknd. Like I've written so much fucking music, and music is so much a part of what I am, and it's what they've used me for in these programs. And what I figured out, and this is crazy, is like they have this thing every year, Mile of Music Festival, right? And the town that I grew up in. And even though I've been playing shows since I've been 12, 13 years old, like I never got invited to be a part of it. And so like every year I would see like all of my friends, like everybody I know, like playing like these shows, like these huge crowds in my hometown, like this crazy thing. And like I'd never be invited. And then the one time they did invite me to play, I played, and it was like the pandemic was like just ending or whatever, and like my keyboard player didn't show up, the bass player didn't show up, and I was just like not good, and like nobody came, and like it was actually one of the most miserable moments of my life was like playing that show when I finally did get invited to play, and it's just my whole life like I was in a band and like I finally felt like I belonged somewhere, and like we had a venue that we all lived in together, and then like they just like were slowly like chipping away at like my autonomy and like what we agreed to when I joined their band, like how they're gonna play my songs, like how I still need to focus on my music, like that was all getting taken away from me, and I was like getting gaslit about it. One day I just freaked out, and left band practice, and I came back and they had replaced me overnight with a new bass player, and like kicked me out of where I was living, like just like that, like overnight.
One of these.
What's
Sorry.
that?
I was going to say, so the big name of this program, and it encapsulates many programs, is demoralization, right? Like that's the big part about it. Whether you're single and lonely in a relationship, or you're in a relationship, you're not, you have this, like that whole thing about you not being able to express yourself the right way was all part of demoralizing you. And then having these other people all promoted,
I
right?
remember that night, like walking down the street and like looking at the signs of like shows coming up and stuff like that, and my name not being on any of the signs, and it's never been on any of the signs, and just like the feeling that it gave me, like I felt like and at the time I didn't know that I was a songwriter that they stole all these songs from. I was like thinking like I'm a fucking loser, like they don't want to play my songs because my songs suck. Like look at all these people who have made it in this tiny shithole town, and I can't make it. Like I just felt like a fucking loser. And also I found out, like I said, my birthday's August 5th. When do you think the Mile Music Festival happens every year?
August 5th?
Yeah, August 5th was the first, is when it usually happens. It depends because it's just the first weekend of August. But yes, it oftentimes lands on August 5th. And I really do think it's just a big like humiliation ritual for my birthday. I realized that's really what I think it is. And like there's even signs, like you drive into Appleton, there's signs that says I hear singing down our road, and like it's got music notes on it. And I just know like they're referring to me. And everyone thinks they're referring to this Mile of Music like festival, but I know damn well they're fucking referring to me. And the Mile of Music thing has been a fucking hazing humiliation ritual the whole fucking time. Like it doesn't make sense. Like I'm me. Like I've always played music, always done it like since I was a child basically. And the fact that like every year they don't invite me, and then of course they also have like another aspect of this that I'll bring up is like I had this ex who I was in a band with, who I decided to leave them. I stood up for myself because they're abusive towards me. Like that's how it happened. Everybody who was there who knows that's how it happened. Now the narrative that's been spun though is that I was the one who was abusive, and like I thought we were over this. This is like fucking a decade ago.
Yeah, that's how this works. You're always at fault, and you can't solve the problem. You're always the bad guy in this situation.
She got messages through her ex that she left to be with me. She got messages like about like I pushed her down a flight of stairs. Like she always said I was shitty towards her, and I knew there was this stuff, but it got crazier and crazier over the years. Like until I apparently pushed her down a fucking flight of stairs, which never even close to remotely fucking happened. But that's what she tells me.
Got that. That's getting off easy, Arkheim. I mean, they completely sabotaged my university career on me with really horrible criminal accusations that completely destroyed my record in the end. They were trying to put me away to jail. And guess what I was being accused of? Oh, right, the same shit that happened to me. The SRA, sexual abuse, etc., etc. And I was being accused of that.
Yeah.
Right? Just to destroy my life. The one thing I'm destined to go. I'm talking with my professor, and I'm cultivating relationships with my professor so I can get a recommendation for graduate school to go study at the London School of Economics. Okay? And places like this, like top level. I worked so hard at all of that, and then they just ripped it all away, and it just reinforced. And they knew my astrological chart. Oh, his core wound is his public image and career and reputation. Let's focus on that. And then like I never wanted to just be an English teacher abroad. But that's what I worked out of what was left to me, because I knew here I was blackballed from any significant work. I was never going to be allowed to have good work in Canada. That's all it came down to, because it's a Masonic country. It's fucking corrupt as the day is long, and everybody's in on it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Whether they know it or not.
Yeah, and that's what they do is they program everybody, and like I said, they make it's a prison that they put these towns. Like a lot of towns have ton at the end of the name, like Appleton. There's in here in Oregon.
I'm from Hamilton.
Hamilton. So yeah, and what they do with the ton towns is they have clones y'all underneath that they use in rituals and do all this weird shit with, and they plan out your lives, all of our lives, like the fucking Truman Show, and they can use time travel if they fuck up. And like, oh, we fucked up. What?
Yeah.
Go back and change it. They literally will do that. They have stolen like there are songs that they went back and like I made songs like hit songs like wrote them and they went back in time and made it so I didn't write them and fucking stole them from me. Like they've done that to me. Like the shit that they do is just fucking unreal. Like how wrong it is. Like you think you've seen the worst of it and it just gets worse the more you look. Like.
Oh,
Yeah,
trust me, I'll tell you, I basically invented a lot of the different things that we call social media today. Back like 25 years ago, I was doing like all this weird stuff, like trying to build alternative economic systems and all these things for the future. And even my one friend who I was really close with in university, he came out later of when Facebook got really popular. It's like, basically, this is Dan's idea. I just took it. It's like, this is exactly what you were talking about. I was building it all on an abstract level because I really wanted to build like something. I just had this extremely prescient, I know it sounds crazy, but very forward looking future kind of thing, like with your music or art. And so it's like all of us, you know, we all have these exceptional talents, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so what they do is do everything in their power so that you don't fulfill that talent, because if you felt right in your own skin, if you felt empowered, you'd be so bloody dangerous. So
yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I got a really, really nasty one here. If you guys want to hear it, it's when I've had this memory ever since I was a kid. I think it's probably my first memory. I don't have a point where I can reference that where it started to come back, but it's a soul transference memory from White Sands. And I'm in this lab, and there's a couple of technicians in there, and one's at the computer terminal up against the wall in the far corner, the left-hand side of the room. And I'm standing next to this big machine. It's like a big oversized MRI machine, but it looks totally different. It's white plastic, textured and so forth. It has a bed you lay in with a dome that covers it. And you climb inside it, and it feels a full light. And then you go into, you know, like a fetus. So I'm having a telepathic conversation with them, and I'm arguing because they're going to give me a handicapped. And I'm thinking about my trauma twin, and I could see him as I remembered him. And I was thinking about how close we were, and I could see him as he currently was, which he was in a wheelchair being pushed through a major city, looked like Chicago, by his mother and a couple of kids walking beside her. So I knew they were going to push this on me, but for some reason, I guess they were able to block me. I couldn't tell what they were going to do. And I was worried about losing, or, you know, not being able to see or being mentally handicapped. And they told me I had to have a speech impairment. And I'm like, well, how am I going to make a living? And they said, well, they didn't even give me an explanation. They said, you just have to take a handicap. And they said it was a woman, and she said it very sternly and authoritarian, like, to my face. And I couldn't see her face because in the memory, they edited it to where her face was in shadow. So fast forward, when I was a kid, I had a speech impairment, and it was remote control. They can make it worse, and they can improve it. And I had periods where I was more fluent than others. But what they would do, and this happens to a lot of people with speech impairments, is that you will go through periods where you can say a specific sound and then you can't. So, and it kept rotating. When it got to the first letter of my first name or the first letter of my last name, then it became a real problem because I couldn't say Ciszek or I couldn't say Nathan. And they use this throughout my life, because if anybody's heard me talk, I've sat for 4 and 5 hours and talked in these interviews. I like to talk. And people tell me that I'm pretty good at it, but when they do that to you and they affect your speech, every single day of your life is humiliating. I have memories of just being in school and being terrified that they were going to call on me to read. When I went to college, it was so bad I had an accounting class that I would literally just start sweating. My armpits would be just like pouring sweat, and I'd have to go to the bathroom. And then one time I remember standing outside. It was like the restroom was across the hall, directly across the hall. And I remember just kind of standing there listening from the other side of the hall, waiting for them to like read past the seat that I was in so I didn't have to go. And it was just things that I could do now, not a problem. But throughout my life, that has been one of the most humiliating things. And then, like everybody else was saying, they take your passions and they use them against you. So I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything like that. Then I had to go into physical labor. Then they destroyed my spine and they took away everything that I like to do. I like to hike. I like to ride ATVs. I like to go, spelunking. I went underground a lot when I was in my early 20s before all this shit happened. I used to love the cave.
Yeah,
And I did a lot of
probably
stuff.
had some good times, man, if I would have been able to hang out with you.
I did. No, yeah, you would have. I mean, we went in a couple caves but it was never enough because there was always problems. And during that time I was having spinal issues. So I'd go to the chiropractor after the caving, but yeah, they just absolutely destroy anything that you like as a passion. And it's like I said, with relationships, if you're really into that,
they let you get good at it enough where you realize that you're within reach of actually
right. And then they take it.
Then
Exactly.
they take
that's
it.
how
They don't just destroy it from the outset.
Yeah,
no, they let you work hard and have hope, and it's all
Yeah,
about,
they do
that's
both.
what I mean about
I was
demoralization.
living off of music, and right before it all stopped, and I stopped doing music because I crashed my van. That was kind of the beginning of the end for me. But like, yeah, I was like living off it. I remember calling my mom and being like, "Yeah, I've done it. Like, I really feel like I've made it. Like, I live in this van. I just play music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, this is perfect. I'm happy." Yeah, and I just remember being like, I think I figured it out, you know what I mean? And then I crashed my van that day, and then that was, I still played some shows, and I didn't like just immediately stop, but it really was kind of the beginning of the end. That and the pandemic itself as well, but like, yeah, it just and then all these weird treatment of me, which I finally figured out is mostly, from what I understand, connected to that ex from like 10 years ago, who I always thought like, things weren't good and they ended badly, but I didn't realize how they still like hold on to it and spread like lies about me and all this stuff. And it's really obvious that they're a handler and that they're also on the programs. The band we had was called Loud Mouse. Okay, and it was spelled German, M-A-U-S, like the German way you spell mouth, and like loud mouse, like loud mouth, like blabbing, like telling people like rumors, like spreading rumors, like yeah, her great grandfather or whatever was the guy who wrote Silent Night, like. So I just think that they were connected to the programs, and like I said, we're corral each other to be in the prison. We're all prison wardens in the prison, like keeping each other in the fishbowl, right? And that's kind of what we were. What that was, I think, is like, yeah, like, and a big reason why I left Appleton, you guys, and this is some real shit. I've talked about this a lot, and it always blows people's minds, but it's real. Like, a real big reason why I left is because I was in the underground portion of Appleton, the base underneath there, the dome underneath it, and I have an altar that they use for janitorial work down there. So they have automaton clones. And the automaton clones are like, they're the people that they use them to do like the work that nobody wants to do. Because think about it, these bases, you need a super duper high security clearance to be there. So there's no like janitors down there. So they use clones of people and stuff that are automaton programmed to do it. Because I've been like a janitor in real life, so I have that. So like, yeah, they use me for that. And me and Willem Dafoe, I swear to fucking God, it was him. He's from Appleton, Wisconsin. We were in this room and we're cleaning it. And he puts a garbage can on the table, and his name is David, and mine's Walter. And so he puts the garbage can on the table to block the camera, because there's cameras everywhere. They're like watching us. And I'm standing there with like a broom or something like that, or a mop. I forget, man. I was pretty out of it. And he's like snapping. He's like, "Hey kid, are you in there?" He's snapping his fingers in my face. He's like clapping his hands. He's like, dude, are you in there? And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And he's like, hey, I need to ask you a question. It's important. Kid, where are you right now? Where's the other you? Because apparently us down there are aware of us up here. Like, apparently. I don't know if that's normal, but at least his version of him and my version of me are aware of the other us. And so he's like asking me, he's like, hey, what's the other you doing? Where is he? I'm like, still where he was. Like, he's like, is he still in Appleton, Wisconsin? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what the fuck are you doing there still, kid? You fucking idiot. You fucking moron. He's like, listen to me. He grabbed me. He's like, do you think it'd be a fucking famous actor if I stayed in Appleton, fucking Wisconsin? He's like, where do you think I'd be if I stayed in Appleton, Wisconsin? He's like, you need to get the hell out of there, kid. That place is built up to bring you down. You hear me? It's built up to put you down. He's like, you need to leave now, and you don't fucking walk, kid. You run. Do you hear me? Do you understand? And I was like, yes. He's like, no, I'm fucking serious. Do you understand? You need to remember this, and you need to leave. And that is literally the reason I left. Literally. Like, that is how I left. It's on his advice, and the fact that I put that, like, out in the public, like, I got the help I needed to get out of Appleton because I was willing to publicly state that happened. And that really did fucking happen. I don't care what anybody says. He's also in the programs, and on that version of him, at least at some levels aware, is Willem Dafoe, because that was an author named Walter. I don't know how aware he is. He probably is on a level to a certain extent, but what can he really do about it? He probably enjoys being a famous actor. That's what I would do. Just ignore it. But yeah, that really fucking happened, and I just felt like that's kind of like an important part of this conversation. It's like he explained it to me, like, and this was before it all started blowing up in my face real bad. And then shortly after that happened, like, my alter Ryan Sterling came to the surface. I woke up in the morning, and he just says to me, like, he's like, hey man, you gotta listen to me for a second. He's like, I gotta tell you something. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And he's like, so your town's like a program. And Appleton's a program, and like, it's set up, you all control each other, you all keep each other there. You're not supposed to leave very often, you know what I mean? And you're supposed to live in Appleton and stay there your whole life because they want to micromanage your life and control you, basically. And he said, well, what's going on right now is just because of what you're doing, and now that you're public and everything else, he's like, they're about to ramp up the program really fucking heavy on you. And he's like, basically what you're going to see is you're going to go places, and you're going to experience, like, people you care about that you thought respected you, like, treating you like dirt. You're going to treat, like, people, like, giving you the cold shoulder, and, like, he's just like, all these people are about to totally shit on you, dude. And he's like, I just want you to know, because they're doing it because they want you to fucking freak out and be miserable. And he's like, you have to understand, like, look at it this way. It's literally a program. He's like, you have to look at it that way. These people are programmed. They're programmed to do this. They have no idea. It's not their fault. But he's like, you know, like, you need to realize that. And then sure enough, we go to like a show, and I'm like told like just to watch. Like, I'm not even playing. And I get told that I have to fucking leave. Like, I get like kicked out. Like, I got like fucking canceled, basically. And it's all over. Yeah, that like. Yeah, over.
Yeah, I have to say I'm supremely grateful that I don't know. I just think about my life before I got with him, and it just feels like some I don't know, that I had a lot of good times, good memories, but a part of me is like that just feels like some strange bubble when I was in. So thank God I got with him, and we were able to get ourselves out of the city of Appleton. Now we basically only go there to visit. Pretty much. So
you wouldn't recommend it to move there or anything, or spend some time on vacation?
No.
I don't recommend where I live either, Glen Burnie.
We had a good time the last time we were there. First time we came back, it wasn't as good, but yeah. So, we had a good time the last time we were there. We saw our friends and family and everything.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I'm at the point now, like, if any of these fucking people or whatever try to come at me and call me out or whatever, I would literally just tell them, there's a military base under the ground. This is a fucking program. You're programmed. You don't realize it. I'm not mad at you, but you all need to fucking realize it. Like, I was at the fucking meat market You know what I mean? Buying meat for this cookout, for the one where I proposed to her.
Mhm.
And the guy asked like, "Oh, what have you been up to?" And I told him like, I'm living in Portland, and I'm like, I do like this disclosure thing. And he's like, is there anything I need to know? And I so badly want to be like, yeah, there's a military base under this town with clones of everyone. Like I so badly just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
But instead, I was just like, I don't know, where do I even start, buddy? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to freak him out too much, but it's like, that's where I'm at now. Like, if I visit and people try to fucking test me, I'm going to tell them exactly who the fuck I am, exactly what the fuck happened to me, and exactly what the fuck they're doing. And I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm not afraid of any fucking rumors or any fucking lies. I know who the fuck I am. That's the reality. You know what I mean? And if you be that way and know who the fuck you are unfuckable. They can't fuck with you.
I'll tell you though, one thing they wanted you to do besides demoralize you is hopefully you get demoralized to the point where you do say, "Fuck it, I'll just join Team Evil." That's one of the hopes as well. You know what?
That's what they
I'm
keep
tired.
offering me.
I'm tired of all this disclosure stuff and all the nonsense and not getting paid and blah 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 and just like living in the margins. You know what?
It'd be really easy to do.
Screw it. I
really
want it.
did that.
And how many people in Hollywood or who are famous in music are exactly that? People who just realize if you want to get ahead, you got to play the game. And like that's why I mean, like I know in Canada, I mean they deliberately. I'll even have a close group of friends, like I did during the pandemic. After like when I came back here in late, I was in 2020, 2021. I met some really great people. Had a lot in common with them. Eerily so. People like psychically sensitive and open-minded and all of this. And I'll tell you, it was really clear. Those of us that went along with the agenda got rewarded and did well and got good jobs. You know,
yeah,
that's what get to work in the Ivy League university.
Like my brother Shane Bales. My brother Shane Bales would be a good example. He is my brother, and now what he does is he goes around and gaslights all of us and says the programs aren't real. And you know what he calls me? And I like out there in the programs, he says you're such an idealist. He's like, you're fucking everything up for me. Don't you realize they can hurt my kids? They can do this. They can do that. And I told him, fuck you. We have to win this. At all, there's nothing worth fucking. We have to win this. That's where I'm at, and that is the truth though. Like he has a nice life compared to me, a really nice life, and he's able to kind of rub that in my face, like, oh, you're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? And look at me, I'm a psychologist. Which, by the way, people have looked him up. I'm not going to name names, but he doesn't have any degree you can find. So I don't even know if that's actually true, and if he's actually a psychologist. These people who work for the Satanists really love to make things up and just have people believe them. Michael Aquino would be a really good example. That guy is super duper fucking good at lying. If you've ever watched him on TV, and Shane Bales is no exception.
Yeah, they're all liars.
Really good at manipulating conversations and making himself look like he's right, even though he's fucking wrong.
Arkheim.
I get really upset when I think about my brother, and I shouldn't talk about him publicly like I do, but I can't fucking help it. Like, should I do that? What do you guys think?
I think you're fine. I think you need to let it out. I think you need to channel the anger into what you're continuously doing now. This is the only thing we can do. I'm pissed off. I was so angry today because, I mean, it's just they wrecked my life. So, and it's like, I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to conform. And one of the things that I get all the time, periodically that is that they'll pump me up full of positive energy and make me feel good, right? And then they'll start talking to me and they'll say, look, your life could be better. Not so much this one, but if you just stop resisting us and you give us what we want, which is total control, we promise you that your next life and your one after that is going to be great. We're going to make sure that you're successful.
I don't know if any of you remember this, the reward lives. Like one of the reward lives that they'll give me is I'll be in a castle and I'll be with like 3 or 4 of the women that I like, that just in my life that have been around me, where a lot of them maybe I wasn't able to be with them, but then they're magically in a castle with me and I'm living with them.
Yeah, you told me about that. Where like it was
seriously, it's
like
reward lives.
Yeah, fake. It's a fake one.
Reward lives where you just get to hang out and you have money and you're living the dream, but it's not common, and I think it's only for super duper high tier assets. And it's also just another way to manipulate and control you. They're treating you like a fucking animal. Like
Yeah.
you're being corralled into doing what they want you to do. So it's like not even really a privilege at all. And
No,
they can
you've
take it
lost
away
your.
from you in a moment's.
Just go
notice.
ahead,
That's the
Don.
problem.
Plus, you've lost yourself.
I have
in
to
that,
go.
Oh, I'm
He's been
sorry.
trying to
Hey,
say.
thank you so much for being
Don.
here.
Take
as well
care,
as
Don.
Spinja.
Nice
Thank
seeing
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Good seeing Spinja too.
Yeah, thank you guys.
No, it's really true though. And the thing is about this, like this deal brokering, it's very extremely subtle, and some people will sell out for like a bag of peanuts, while other people know how to hold out so they get better terms and conditions as well in the rewards that they get. You know, like let's say there's like 3 other friends of mine, right? So there's me and my one friend. We both ended up with like dead parents, and he's living out of an RV, and I've been, you know, scattered to the 4 winds of the earth since all of this. And the
Are
other
these
guy-
MILABs, Dan? These other people?
Probably, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because I think most of the people I actually do connect deeply with are. the
Right,
more and more I look at it, right? Like,
Everybody else is like an alien. You know.
yeah, and then, you know, and I'm not trying to like say, "Ooh, poor me" in some ways, but it's like you do see like it's just so obvious that like certain people are getting propped up, and they get it. They get the jobs after graduation. They get this. They get that. They get to go to grad school. You don't. You get to be the one with no assets. You get to be the one who's isolated. You're the one who gets to start your life up over again, you know, 30 times in 25 years. Right?
Yeah,
and have to reinvent yourself and go back from like bankrupt and climbing
exactly
up,
the same.
have it wiped out.
I'm in it right now.
I used to like building sandcastles as a kid on the beach. It's a very good metaphor for my life.
Because they get knocked right down, washed away.
And they just get washed right out, and then you get to redo it again, and over and over again.
And then when you walk away, they put cigarettes in it. Put cigarettes out in there and defile it.
Yeah, he's told me that one of the reasons why we're, you know, basically one of the reasons why they let us stay together is because we're so like it's basically easier to keep an eye on us in one place.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they said to me.
We're like the same type of.
We're both Arkheim. So Arkheim, I figured out, is a title. Like I'm just Ra. That's it. I'm fucking Ra. Like I'm not Arkheim Ra. I'm Ra. Arkheim is a title, and Arkheim means and no one has to believe that. I don't care if people believe me or not. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to make that less part of the conversation because I know like it's very polarizing. But Arkheim means I can open portals, I can go to other realities, and I can communicate with other versions of myself across realities and work with them and stuff like that, and missions and shit. And she's also Arkheim. And there's other people that have that title of being Arkheim, and that's what it means. So yeah, and since we're both Arkheim, we open portals and do a lot of the same stuff and are used for a lot of the same purposes. Yeah, they because they track us, they follow us, they monitor our whole lives, and like I told her, like
I said, your parents probably got together specifically just to make you, you know, and this stuff. Like that sounds crazy on a certain level, but when you
no, it isn't.
Yeah, like I said, there's stuff about.
I have a memory of it.
If you look at it, if you're looking at species that are non-temporal in existence, right? It doesn't matter to them. They look at going through timelines like we look like for us to hop on a plane to go to Cancun. It's easy. It's a no-brainer. So that there's a lot of manipulation around, and I've noticed especially that when you do, like, to go back to the gang stalking and that for a moment, like even when I was much younger, but well before knowing anything like this, right? Like this is whatever. Don't want to date myself, but like whatever, like 30 years ago or something. And realizing that like when I get my energy high or close to that, I get my energy and my awareness level high. That's when I call like the flies come out. And suddenly I notice all these people are attracted to me. And it's creepy, man. Like there's bikers going down the street and they're doing, because they just know like they rub that engine. It's just like to throttle me, like literally to disrupt my energy. I have people starting to come up to me and having conversations. like when I was finishing university, it was like, oh yeah, so you're going to go work in public relations, right? When I mentioned my major was politics, and that's something that I could have done, right? Like that's one of the few fields that a political science degree, they actually want a political science degree for you to work in public relations. And I would have been good at it, you know, telling people that nuclear waste is really good for your teeth and all that kind of shit that they do in public relations. But
yeah, it is
you
good.
know,
I've been using it lately.
you know, that's what it is, right? Like
Okay.
it's nothing but psychological. And I was very interested in it because I studied about public relations companies, all of that in politics. These were taboo subjects you weren't supposed to really even acknowledge existed, because that sort of ruins the whole little democracy illusion when you realize that these things really run the world. And so it's always been these tests of your integrity, and in selling out to the system. Very easy to sell out in the system. I met a lot of high profile politicians and everything else like this over the years, where I could have easily had a career in that if I wanted to play the game. Like, you know, I'm meeting like the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada and being invited to a boat luncheon cruise with the G7 economic ministers when I'm 18 because of whatever, right? Like I so easily could have gone and done many things, but it was always this sort of sabotaging along the way. Some of it's, you know, self-sabotage through the trauma programming and our saboteurs. I'm not saying it's all programs. So I think one of the harder things for us when we have these conversations is trying to find where we are sort of personally responsible, where we have the agency to heal so we don't do some of this stuff to ourselves, and what are sort of things beyond our control. But it's like, and Nate knows this, you know, and Robin that, but like, you know, I had a really hard time. I had to work in a fast food restaurant over the last year, and they wouldn't even give me enough hours to exist. And they were bullying me there and giving me like the heavy workload and working me really hard and all of this. And I finally got a new job, and I was so excited, like my health food store job. And, you know, they found a weak spot in that, and I think they even set it up to demoralize me again because, you know, I had to leave that recently because you know, the owner is a freaking meth addict. You know what I mean? Like, how many people do you know who run health food stores who have methamphetamine addictions?
Dan,
really bad ones. You know what I
Dan,
mean? Like,
the same thing.
so I get set up right into this job just so I get demoralized, you know? And then
Yeah.
I'm back at square one again.
I couldn't find a good job either. That's why I eventually quit. And like I mean I was a mortgage broker. I had a good job at one point, and then I went into the work, and I was like going from dead end job to dead end job, and people try to demoralize you. It's crazy, you know. It's like, you know, it's insane. You know, I've gotten into full blown fist fights on construction sites, and like,
Really?
you know,
I
like
would have liked to have seen that.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Rob's
I mean,
a
it was
killer.
pretty bad.
Oh, I wouldn't want to fight Rob. Rob looks like he's tough. You know, that's for sure.
Well,
I
Pittsburgh
can
is a
tell.
rough and tumble
Oh,
city.
and Rob, remind me, I have a special message for you later. I was doing meditation the other day, and I had a special message come through for you. So let me do that in a non-public
Oh, cool.
forum. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
remembered
thanks.
it now. But yeah,
Here's something
it's a
that they
good
do
one.
to me with employment, just so you know, is that I'll have the handlers telling me to go apply for a job, and then I don't get it. And they'll build it up. Oh, you're going to get it. We're going to make sure you get it. This is going to happen. And then boom, nothing. And then it's like that again. And then they'll admit later that, yeah, well, we made sure you didn't get that job. And it just keeps building. And then my wife will be on me, you know, and it's like my son, you know, and it's like, I don't get any respect at all. And it just keeps building up and to the point where you just get so fucking angry that, you know, you almost want to snap and just, you know, but I mean, you know, lately the thing has been is, I've just been trying to resist them, and then I get punished for it. So it's like they're setting me up for something. They give me no indication they're going to follow through on anything they say. They force me into something with punishment and mind control, and then, you know, and then from there. So then I'm just in limbo. I don't know where my life's going at. I don't know if I'm going to be here in another couple of years, or I'm going to be somewhere else, or I'm even going to be alive. You know, and I don't know. It's not a way to live. This and now, you know, somebody said something on Facebook in a I was at an abduction group, and I said I was telling I said how horrible it is, and they're like, "Oh, I thought it was cool." And it's like, "What are you talking about? You think being abducted as a child is cool? You think going through this is cool?" I mean,
it sounds crazy, right?
If you want, I can't give you the full abduction experience, but I could give you the anal probe if you'd like.
Oh, that's nothing. I mean,
Like, what
that's
you want, like, you know,
that's absolutely
it's so
nothing.
cool, man. You know,
It's far worse than that. It's
No,
like,
I
yeah,
know, but-
and there's a Satanist holding it, and then something else is
Yeah.
happening to you.
No, I know it's
no better
really hard,
version.
and I've had to revisit it today. Like, I'll be honest, because I think we need a lot more. Like, I think we need to make ourselves vulnerable in order to let this truth out. That's really important as well. Not being like, oh, look at me, I'm all Mr. like,
We know, Dan, that's the idea.
Captain America style. Like, the reality is we're people, and we're not trying to work in our victimhood, but like I almost had a nervous breakdown earlier today because I was just so fed up with everything. Because, like I said, I mean, try reinventing yourself.
What time was your breakdown?
25 years. Around
Mine started at noon,
yeah.
which was 9 a.m. your time, and lasted until about 5. So.
I'm like tired of like people acting like if we are honest with ourselves about the position we're in, like we're
Let's just go away.
playing the victim or something like that. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
reality is like I get kidnapped. I got kids that I get separated from. I got lives like people I get separated from. Like
That's another thing.
It's like a lot of trauma, and I don't like how people like. There's a lot of people in the community who are like, oh, we're going to the high timeline, whatever, which is true. We're doing that, cool. But like, I think a lot of people kind of look at people like us who are being realistic about we've been through hell and back, and now we are trying to heal, but we do have to talk about our trauma, and we do have to be real with other people about it, right?
Yeah, we have have kids together, and I don't even know what they look like. Like that hurts.
I know what one of them look like, but and
But yeah, you're right though, and it's like I think one of the things that's really hard too is then again, even your spiritual or truther community can almost turn against you, like you were saying earlier with like me with the gay thing or whatever. That happens too. If you're not like singing love and light, then people are like, oh, you're enjoying your victim status. And it's like, no, dude, like I'm doing everything in my power to get beyond that. I hate that. The last thing I want to do is celebrate myself as a loser. That's not exactly my ambition in life. Right?
And I'm not talking like bad about him. I'm more saying like the fact that he felt the need to announce it is like, okay, like Tyler Koala of Journey to Truth, like apparently they tried to kill him.
Right.
And
I saw that.
And
what happened with that, by the way? Do you know?
The victim or whatever, like he felt the need to announce that. And it's like, bro, they tried to kill you.
Yeah.
You don't need to feel like you're playing the victim by telling people about it. But there's that kind of ethos.
There's that stigma.
Felt the need to announce that, and I don't blame them for feeling the need to announce that or anything. But it's like it's kind of wild. It's like, yeah, if they try to kill you, it's okay to post about it. That doesn't mean you're playing the victim. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I've literally had it.
And you're full of it. That's the other thing they like to label on us, because I've done the same thing. It made me really sick, and I've made a video about it. But people look at it and say you're just trying to get attention, and I felt the same way. I mean, but
the sad thing is
you got to be honest.
Sometimes is people who do that.
Sure.
And then we get lumped into that or whatever. But like the reality is, you got to talk about the bad in order to get to the good. You have to work through your trauma. Like trauma isn't something where it's just like, oh, I have this trauma. Here it is. Okay, let's put it here. No, you have to digest it. You have to digest it. You have to work through it. And then you can kind of, for lack of a better analogy, kind of shit it out, get rid of it. But like, it's like a kind of like a process where like, it's kind of painful to get rid of your trauma.
Yeah,
but you have to do it, and then you feel better after you do it. It's like literally kind of like taking a big shit. Like,
but too many people in the community too, though. They act like if you're vibing high, then you can't be touched. I find I get targeted heavier if I vibe high. Like it's really like I've had it when I start to go through my things. I've had people in a 1 week period when I lived in China. I had somebody trying to run me down in a parking lot. I had my neighbor chase me down the hall with a kitchen knife that was 14 inches long.
Jesus.
And then swiped it at me. Like, I mean, like, just because I asked him to, like, after midnight to keep his illegal daycare quiet because it woke me up out of my sleep. You know, like I like we're talking like you can get targeted extra hard when you vibe high. That's my experience. So it's sort of frustrating. It's like, yeah, you get to like live with long-term depression, or you can actually sort of build things up and you're actually vibing high and you're doing well. And it's like, let him get tortured. You know, let's take that away from him. Or I've even likened it sometimes to almost like waterboarding. I feel like sometimes they let you have the good, just like in waterboarding, they release you from the simulated drowning just long enough so that you do get the air, just so they can put you back down under again, because you live
Right.
longer that way. Like, this is something to consider here, right?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced it where things are good and then they take it away from you. You know, things are good and then they take it away. You know, like it's a repeated pattern, and
And you can
Yeah.
just see it. Why don't you want to play along, Mr. Armstrong? It's so simple. You just have to do what you're told.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's like
Don't
it's
you
the
want to
same-
have
Well,
nice
like I
things?
said, they like to say,
Maybe
gotta
you
be
don't
some
like
kind of
nice
healers.
things. Oh, okay. More shit for you if you don't want to do these simple things we request. You know, it's this kind of nonsense. And I don't mean to put it against Germans or whatever. I'm just trying to bring some light humor to the nonsense that we go through. But it's pretty clear that that's what it comes down to a lot of the times. Like, if you ever watch the original, what is it, V, the television show, you know, they say, you know, that he sees the guy from the homeless camp when they're going through the alien base and they're going to have like a big soiree.
Or
And
he's got
like,
his he has his wristwatch on and everything. His
yeah,
business.
and he's all in a tuxedo, and the guy's
Right.
all dressed up. He's the hobo 1 minute, now he's all plussed up, and he's like, and he knows what's going on, and he's like, how could you do it? He's like, how could you sell it your own people? He's like, come on, get
Everybody's
on the
doing
winning side. That's
Yeah.
these people are stronger than we are. We're never going to beat them. Why not enjoy the goods while the going is good? Get on the right team. This
I have
is
that
so much of the
conversation
message.
every day, Dan. I have that conversation with these handlers, unless it's a day where they leave me alone.
Yeah.
But it's always the same shit, because every time they talk, I'm basically protesting about the situation. You know, how do you expect me to keep going like this for another 20 years if I can't even decide, or I can't even figure out how I'm going to pay the mortgage from month to month? It's like every week, every third week of the month, I'm in, like right now, I'm in a total stressed out situation because I'm 3 months behind on it. And if I'm a day late, they can pull, okay, you need 2 months or 3 months, or we're going to take the house. And that's where I'm at right now. So I'm selling things because I can't get back to work. And then it's like, I don't know if they're stopping me. Or it's just the fact that they've kept me out of work for so long that when the AI goes to the resume and goes to the application, it just boots mine right out and no one ever sees it. You know, and I live in a fucked up state where I'm trying to apply for these cannabis positions, but they don't allow the companies to apparently have a listed phone number. So you cannot call them to speak to them. You cannot do any. It's like you're submitting your application into, you know, the Borg, and you never hear anything back. And it's like, and there's people who get these jobs, but it's like, well, how do you get them? You know,
And they'll deliberately give it to less qualified people and everything else, just to say, just so that people can turn around and say, well, even this Yahoo managed to get a job working at this place. Why can't you do that? Why can't you hold on to a job? And even these things like job cycling is about, it's also to get your own friends and family frustrated with you. Like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? Why do you have to ruin your life? Why can't you compromise?
Oh, it's why are you doing it to us when you have a family? It's not just you.
Sure.
I mean, you know, and they don't want to hear any of these things. You're in a situation.
I'm sure Rob faces this kind of pressure all the time, even from his family and that, right? Like, okay, well, you tried that podcasting thing. Why can't you just go back and do whatever, Rob? You know, and
I get that.
Right. This is what people do. They don't like people with integrity because it's showing that you can't be controlled. And that's the greatest sin in this fucking corrupt world.
You know, I had a guest tell me it the other day. A guest told me, she's like, you know what, maybe you should just get a job and work for the government. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I want to work for. I want to work for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Do you know what I mean? Like, no way. You know?
I can help you. I know who all the MILABs are. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like your cover letter. I have been doing extensive research. It's fine.
Yeah, I could be a V2K handler, you know, just sit back and just talk to people and be nasty all day, you know,
Yeah. So
sit in my house with all my toys. My neighbors are like, what do you do for a living? I work for the government.
you know,
Handling
and
people like
it's
you.
not like you don't do clearings. Like I've done, you know, how many clearings I do on myself, and I'm always still keep coming up with more stuff to clear. And so it's always continuous. And I just want to say that I appreciate you guys because I know how hard it is to stand in your integrity. It's extremely hard, especially in the world right now. We are the demoralization campaign is very strong, and their hope is to break these, for lack of a better word. Their job also ultimately is to convert angels into demons. That's what they'd like, and the best way you do it is through extreme
Trauma.
and bitterness and trauma,
Yeah.
so that person wants to become evil, so that they want to identify with the oppressor because it's the only way they see out. That's their ultimate plan with this stuff, you know. And so
they've laid that out to me more eloquently than you did, Dan. Sorry to tell you, but they gave me the full details of it, you know, over a period of a long time in different ways.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's always the plan. And we've resisted for many lifetimes through these things, right? Because it's,
and they ramp up the abuse to get you to go in, to just go all in, just take it all, take every aspect of me, and just make it easy. Just like a trauma split, they feed that. You just give us what, you know, what we want, and the pain will go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I just, even in processing things yesterday about various forms of abuse that happened to me and, you know, some of my family members and that when we were younger, and exactly how some of that worked. And, you know, it's really upsetting because you can know things on a factual level, but sometimes when we talk together with like this too, we can sort of process finer details to some of that trauma.
Yeah.
So we almost have to relive it again, you know.
I think what we're all learning here is that having that support network, whether it be platonic or romantic, is hugely important. And like, even if you can't find like a romantic partner, just having that friends and people who listen to and believe you is hugely important to make sure that, you know, you still survive and thrive in this world that we live in. And I'm sure he would agree with me. He actually had a partner who like said she believed him, but then when they broke up, she was like, "You're crazy, like you're just delusional, blah blah blah."
That's typical, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's easy.
People don't want to hold on to that particular belief that it's real, and they will revert back to the programmed reality that they're in.
Yeah, it's been
I've done it myself. How many
we
times
all
do we
do it?
You know,
right.
He doesn't want to be normal.
Right.
I mean,
and we have all the experiences, so they don't. So it's very easy for them. Hey, look, I have a name for this podcast, but it won't work. It's called Debunk This Motherfucker. So because you don't hear this stuff. You don't hear this stuff anywhere else. And that was the point. It was just, you know, I want to hear the woo. Well, this is the woo. This is the other half of it. Welcome to our nightmare and debunk this motherfucker. That's how I feel about it. The more of these we do, the more it's going to make our stories more credible, and it helps us.
Yeah, being with him, I've seen so many crazy things, and I always believed him, but especially after the situation with the guy in the park, like things are getting real for me in a way that they haven't gotten real for me before. Let's just say so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
once the freaks come out of the woodwork, and the government agents, and it actually is therapeutic when that happens, even though it's dangerous, because at least you get some validation. It's not all in the esoteric and all in your head and what everybody's telling you. At least now, like when I answer the phone and I talk to your friend about this shit, and they start putting sound effects that are keyword activated, I enjoy that because it literally locks me in the reality. It grounds me again. It's like, okay, here we are. But that's what they do is they put it on my end most of the time and not his, so he can't hear it. So he's like, well, what are you talking about? I don't hear anything. So they play the mind games too. But yeah, it's a validating experience when the clowns and the spooks all come out to get you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's scary, but at the same time, it's like, holy shit, this is actually real and this actually happened.
Well, you guys know, even I think, I don't know who, if I told this to you before, was it you, Rob? I mean, I can't even get on a bus in Canada sometimes without getting like attacked by the cops and stuff like this, right? Did I ever tell you that experience? That crazy one, right?
I think you did.
What happened?
Yeah.
Just imagine if you had like a problem in your intestines and all you did was skunk farts all the time. And back when weed was illegal, you'd have one hell of a time. Hey, let's go to Taco Bell. Oh no, man, I've been searched. No.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's like, it's to see like how pervasive it is. The reason why most people don't see it is most people don't poke their reality. Like, I'm like the kid who wants to poke the hole through the cellophane meat in the grocery store. That's how I am with this reality. You know, it's.
I used to do that when I was a kid.
See what I mean? Kids do that. It's terrible, but
it feels good when it's all squishy and full of blood. I don't know. It's weird.
But my point is, like, a lot of people don't challenge the reality they're in. Like, and this simple thing, I'll do the short version of it, but it was just one time I was trying to get the bus late at night, Arkheim, and I was actually in search of trying to find some weed, and of course the police shut down the dispensaries and everything, even though they were in a gray zone legally. And anyhow, I had to wait at this sort of transit terminal in the downtown, which is a bit depressed and dark and winter, and the bus was late, and all the buses sort of come to this little terminal. And then my bus pulled in, and I was in the shelter. I would go to get to it. Anyhow, I go to board, and I said, "Hey, what the hell? You almost pulled away on me there," to say to the bus driver. Not really aggressively. I just sort of like letting him know, you may not realize this, but people are waiting for you there. And he's like, "You're not getting on this bus." And then I realized, oh, it's this game again with the Masons, because I swore, and they don't want me to swear, you know, because that's such a great thing compared to abusing children and everything. And
yeah, it's like a Bill Cosby getting on Eddie Murphy for cursing when he's raping women and drugging them.
Right.
Total hypocrisy.
Exactly. Total hypocrisy, right? And anyhow, I'm like, well, I'm not getting off the bus. He's like, I'm not letting you on it. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'll call the cops. I'm like, go ahead. Because it was like right across the street, the police station. And anyhow, I realized after a couple minutes, I just didn't want a fight or anything. So I just went to go on the next bus behind it, which would take me to another area, and I'd have to walk part way home, but it was better than nothing. But in the meantime, that guy radioed to the other guy, don't let him on the bus. Because guess what? I go to get on that bus. They don't let me get on it. He's like, you're not getting on this bus. I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, I'm like, you have to. This is a public transit and that. And he's like, no, it isn't. It's a private company. He's like, points to the thing. And I'm like, and I knew he was right on a certain level, right? And he goes, you know, we run the system.
Oh, God.
And I was like, I knew when he said we run the system, he wasn't talking about the fucking transit system at that point. He was talking about the system.
Right.
And like I said, I knew he was a Mason, because that's one of these types of jobs, these nice, secure, cushy jobs that people get if they play the game right. And anyhow,
yeah, my father-in-law is a Freemason, by the way, and has absolutely no understanding of the situation I'm in. So that's another aspect of this I never talked about before. But anyway, sorry for interrupt. I just think, you know, the Masons, what you made a point there that I had to articulate.
Yeah. Good. And we do this, like I said, so it helps elicit
bring it out
for ourselves, right?
Right.
Anyhow, next thing I know, I knew what he was saying, so I said to him at that point, big words for a porch Mason, which isn't really the nicest thing to say in response, but I know enough about it. There's the big house, and then there's the porch, and those groups like the cops and firefighters and bus drivers, they're like the lower degrees. They're just like the guard dogs for the big house.
They're the union guys, job security.
They don't get to, they're like the blue collar Masons. They don't get to go inside the big house where the gentleman with the white gloves go in. It's all based off of like a plantation metaphor and stuff like this, right? Anyhow, after I said that, he turned dead silent and just sort of stared off, like he MK Ultra'd on me. He just went. And next thing I know, cops are there. They're starting to like push me around, literally. It's like, actually, they got another guy, a third party, to push me around, not in a marked uniform. And then while two cops, these two giant hockey jocks, watched, and they just right until they pushed me at 50 feet back against to a brick wall. And I'm like, stop it, because I know they're trying to get me to violently react. Anyhow, they arrested me and everything else and all this type of nonsense, even though I did nothing. And then I just sort of stood my ground, and eventually they released me. But I mean, that's the kind of thing. You challenge the system in any way, they're going to throw it right back in your face, especially if you know what that system is and you tell them. Yeah, and I get that all the time, because I have these people and they're so cocky, right? They think that guy thought I didn't know what he was talking about when he's like, "We run the system." Yeah, I know who you are. I know you're kind. I know what you do. Don't think that you're so smart and you got one on me. And I guess they didn't like that.
Yeah, see, I would have said, well, let me guess, you're a map. You know, if you knew what that was.
Right.
It's actually not even an official term, if I understand. It's like a fringe term some professor came up with.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't get people like, first of all, it's like, to go back to like the earlier point with Arkheim, like one of the worst things is like people thinking gay people are trying to push their kids to become gay is one of the most ridiculous things in the world, because if anybody appreciates people not pushing a sexuality on children, is gay people who have to grow up with people pushing a sexuality on them that they didn't want. You know,
it's the government. It's the government. It's the government, and it's more like a trans thing. It's not even a gay thing. It's
that's
like
what I'm saying. It's not a gay thing. And then, but they get these Christian conservatives and everything else to start inventing these elaborate fantasies and everything in their head.
Well, they also use the algorithm.
They can't reproduce, so they have to steal our children. And it's like, I hate to tell you this, but have you ever watched Jurassic Park? Genetics will find a way around anything. Even if you engineered all the animals to be female, you're still going to come up with a male that can reproduce it. That's just part of nature. Like, nature includes same-sex relations. I mean, again, these people, like, they say they're these salt of the earth conservatives. Have you ever been on a farm? Have you ever watched animals? There's plenty of animals that have
cats are
same-sex relations,
lesbian.
You know? What's that?
Our cats are gay. They're lesbians. Charna, the black one, she's like totally a lesbian. She doesn't like boy cats at all. She hisses at them. We think Adarna is bisexual, but yeah, she's gay for Charna. So our cats are
That's
gay.
funny.
Everybody
Hey, Kat,
remembers
did you see the video
Gladiator, the guy who sold him a gay horse, and the guy's upset. He's like, "You sold me a gay horse!"
Hey, I sent the video of my dog humping his older brother, they're actually the same age, one of his siblings. We got three dogs in the litter in the family, so he got to visit. And I sent a video to Arkheim. It was like they were doing the reach around. I mean, they were basically humping one another, and then they would switch, and it was like endless. This went on for hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Rob, if you want to see it. I was thinking about putting it on Facebook.
No, I'm good.
People think I'm weird.
I'm good. But it sounds funny, but I'm good.
Two Irish setters going at it.
But like at the end, we're all people, and we just want to have like the basics to make ourselves feel secure and comfortable. I'm amazed when I go back and I watch the films from the 70s or 80s again, because I remember growing up in that, and I remember how like less materialistic people were before the digital world came about. Like, people even in the 80s were nowhere near as materialistic as where people are today, and yet everybody remembers being happier in those times. I'm not saying it's perfect, but the general happiness level was, for the general population,
it's definitely better.
Pretty decent. Like,
so
when do you guys? I got a good question. But you know, like people were able to feel more dignified, and that's what made them happy.
Right, because they could afford things, and they had had stability and they had the upward mobility within the, the levels of society. It was all there. The American dream was kind of still there a little bit, but not anymore.
So if you want to see something that destroys
New
family
World Order
values,
nightmare.
attack private equity. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, well, they want to rent our
that are
society.
making the cost of living too expensive and giving people shittier jobs.
And make a rental society.
Families so that you can't afford. Like, why is the population collapsing across the Western world? It's simple.
Artificial austerity.
Because people can't afford to make families.
That's the plan.
It's as simple as that. Like, it's not worthwhile to them to have a family.
And all these big organizations like the Royal Society, the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, I don't know if CFR is into it, or probably are. I can't think of the other ones, but there's also think tanks. They all publish documents where they talk about converting us over to this system, and it's a new world order system, a social credit score. You rent everything, you own nothing, you have no rights, no freedom, and they monitor thought, and that's it. And what astonishes me is I go on YouTube and I see 1 million views, and it's like one of the influencers in the community that gets to get, they get a lot of opportunities to get a cushy life. And they talk about it, and it's like, well, why don't you give us? Well, I know why. I feel left out of the conversation because there's so many of us that could actually contribute real information to this, instead of these people that they prop up and put out there that are allowed to talk and they live these easy lives. They work, they do a lot of work, but at the same time, they're controlled. They're the controlled disclosure. So that's just a little bit. It's safe information because it doesn't tell you everything, and it definitely does not motivate you to do anything about it.
Well, most of it is designed in. It's perfect that we're growing. The most popular ideology, if you look at advertisements on YouTube nowadays, is how to make yourself successful. If you think positively enough, and you're a hustler, and this hustle culture thing.
Culture bullshit.
It makes me sick.
Total nonsense. Yeah, I want to work 3 jobs. Fucking hell. Who the hell promoted that?
They just in these cyber trucks. They're just this stupidity with that is unreal.
Yeah.
Look at my wealth. Look how rich I am, and it's like just a bunch of superficial garbage. And these people are just. They make me. I know they got to be miserable, but they make me even more miserable when I look at it.
And the people who make the money off the spiritual services, not obviously there are some who aren't, but I'll say this: they know how to talk the right talk, but they're not getting into the deeper subjects. Most of it's just saying, just
bye.
Sit back and ascend. Just vibe high, ascend in the easy boy chair. If you tune into CNN on Tuesday, November 5th, this time everybody will ascend. It's this kind of approach. So it's really about neutralizing people from doing something. There's so much of this trend in the world, and it's very, again, demoralizing to people who have actual talents to help people in different ways that do have a contribution to make to this world. And so I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to say this because I know I struggle with this, and I want other people to not feel lonely or be hard on themselves either. You may not be able to be successful and live off of what you're trying to do alternatively, but don't be too hard on yourself about that, because a lot of us are marginalized in this community, and I think if a lot more of us had some money to spend, then we would be able to support each other more. But we're going to get there. Slowly.
I got a trendy thing with a slogan. Hold a second, Rob. It sort of goes like this. It's sell out, tune out, and ascend. It's like, that thing with, Timothy Leary during the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't remember. Actually, I can't remember what he said, but it's identical to that in the sense that it was all written essentially by, the controllers. That's what they want you to do. Even though I came up with the second one, but
he was the CIA.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why he was able to deal acid, which was a major charge. And there's people serving life prison sentences for it because they weigh the carrier weight, not the actual drug.
And he was also big at promoting the digital cyber culture as well.
And he always lived comfortably. Never got fired. Exactly. He was there to create what they created.
Sorry, Rob, what were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry about that,
I
Rob.
was just gonna say it sucks for all of us, but at least we all have each other as friends, and we're
Yeah.
starting to build a community. I think we're really starting to build a community, which
Yeah,
is
this
which is
just
a
the
good
beginning.
thing.
We're just
Well,
this is just the beginning. We're the new wave, like, and this
Yeah.
is the very beginning of it, I think.
And as you see, what they've done is they've just hit us with everything, with including the kitchen sink, all the fighting, all the lies of the handlers, and all the other crap that they throw at us, all the poverty and everything else. That they've just
The poverty,
they've
the
seen,
health issues,
well, they
everything.
see this wave coming. They see this where you have a controlled disclosure. Then you had a smaller group of fringe people like us, and that was heavily controlled. Then now they're starting to see it break, and it's starting to diversify, and it's starting to take on a grassroots type of look, and they don't want that. So they got to break everybody up. And then censor us at the same time, keep us in an echo chamber, get us fighting, and then they can neutralize this. And they're, as far as they're concerned, they think that, I mean, that's their only strategy at this point, besides for making people sick and trying to cut deals with us, to get me to, for one, they wanted me to stop talking, but I see nothing on the other end of it as an offer for shit. So, I'm not going to entertain that right now.
And the biggest thing too is like, I guess the good thing on the other side is sometimes if you did have those material rewards, you would have more skin in the game in this artificial construct to begin with.
I'm just trying to be happy to survive,
that's
man.
where whatever. And I hear you, but I think that's where it's a dangerous thing sometimes, because we can sort of get distracted from doing this, and so at least we do have that. We have the pain, we have the poverty, but we fortunately have some time to do some of this, and it's reaching more people. And I think we're just gonna work on healing each other, and I think we need to work on practicing our abilities and really helping each other through that healing. I think it's time.
Yeah, I'm just so great. I'm just so grateful that like we have each other. We're able to kind of encourage each other, lift each other up. We kind of push each other out of our comfort zones and things like that. And I just think that's a wonderful and beautiful thing to have. And I wish everybody, I hope that everybody who wants that can find it for sure.
And I just want to pay a little bit of respect to the people who've been on this path even a while longer. We have people who are like decades older than us too, who've been doing this a really, really long time. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that kind of thing, elders, that some of the people the trailblazers who started some of this for us. It's what lets us being able to be where we're at. And we're doing it also for others that will come behind us as well, and making it easier for them, right? Like it's really important to keep a perspective that we're doing this a lot more than just the here and now. And
Someone's asking in the chat, where does this community exist? And I would say like literally right here. You're like
really in your heart. I mean, that's.
Is there a forum? You're literally in a chat right now. And then also, there's people. Most of us are on Facebook. There's groups on Facebook. There's Telegram.
Rob has a Discord if you want.
Yeah, there's Discord groups.
Like
yeah, what's your Discord, Rob?
Good.
It's just a Typical Skeptic podcast. Then I have a Telegram group, and then Nate has a Telegram group too. So me and Nate we help each other in each other's Telegram groups. Like Nate's a mod in my Telegram group, and then I'm just really active in his Telegram group, and like
but it's what people make of it too. I think sometimes people sort of expect like it's going to be like a catered event. The reality is it's just a space. You can hold space yourself, but it's what you make these communities to be. Like obviously someone like Rob is really busy doing what he's doing. He can't like be putting too much time into the Discord in that as much as when he can, he does. But I just encourage everybody to just sort of keep keep trying to connect, and just get in there. Like, stop even with the text messaging and forwarding and propagandizing each other. Just get in a video chat like this and start talking to each other.
Yeah, just don't reach out to people.
I get all these friend requests from people, and then people don't even message me. I'm like, well, why? What are you doing? Collecting baseball cards? Like,
it's to promote things or have followers. Or what? But that's why we need things like this, where we have these discussions, and because the community is going to really be in your heart through those connections that you make from all of the people that you meet on something like this, and hopefully there'll be many others like it. I think we just need it. We're setting an example.
And we're all going to have
create it, and they will come.
Like, sometimes some of us are going to be in a low point. Maybe we can't even be as engaged with the community, but that's a chance for some other people to pick it up. But we can't also expect that there's just always going to be these amazing people batting 1,000 there to help the community. That's putting a lot of pressure on those people. This isn't a resort.
They can't do it by themselves.
They're not here to massage you and clean your room and do everything for you. It's what you contribute to it as well that matters. So it's really important. Like, I had a friend yesterday, did a 4-hour live doing readings for people, said, hey, I'll do it for free. It'd be really nice if you can give a donation. And nobody did. You know what I mean? Like, they put 4 hours of their time in. They're unemployed, all these other things. They did really good work. And it's like, look, even when you got like nothing, you can put $2 into somebody just to say, hey, I acknowledge it. It's important. One way or another. It's a
weak sense of community that kind of exacerbates that behavior.
Yeah, and
of course the targeting too.
Time, like, he gets people like hitting him. He's like, his inbox is constantly full. People asking him like the most random stuff, and it's like he doesn't have time to deal with all of it.
Yeah,
but
that's what I want to do before I'm going to work today. I want to like read about your trauma or whatever. Get back to you.
I was like, I'm in love with this actor. She's like 30 years older than me. I don't want to be with girls my age. Like, I think it's meant to be. And my thought in my head is like, why the fuck am I the person you're asking about things? Like, what the fuck does this have to do with like secret space programs or whatever? But I guess maybe you thought that he was with her in the programs. I guess maybe. But I was just like, bro, you should probably forget about this woman. It sounds kind of obsessive, and
yeah, that's another thing that can come up, talking about relationships. That's another thing that can come up.
Girls his age. It told me to date girls his age.
But the reason they asked you is you're more emotionally available to people. I was at a gas station one time, and some guy came up to me and asked me for money because I was out of gas. And I said, why in the world would you ask me? I said, I'm broke. I'm driving a 1986 Chevy Blazer that I can barely afford parts for to fix it. I said, I've got clothes that look like they've been worn from a long time. Why would you ask me? And he says, well, I just looked at you and thought that, you were kind of down on your luck and you'd be more inclined to help me than somebody who's wealthy and doing well.
That's true.
I said, why don't you ask them?
Yeah, that's true. There's been studies that show that, like, people who are less well off, like, I'm not a wealthy person, but I'm still going to tip, 20% at a restaurant, right? Because I know that that is probably struggling to pay their bills, and I don't want to be a jack.
I check their fingernails nowadays. If they got $100 manicure, screw that. They're not getting into
it. But
can't afford $100 manicures.
Well-off people are more likely to be more generous, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I just putting that out there just because I think it's an important thing as part of the demoralization thing. Like, people do put a lot of time into all these things, and we are weaponized against each other, but it's important. And it's not just financial, like sometimes just being there for each other at times, or giving some really nice feedback or something, or, I try to thank people at least if, I do contact them on Facebook or something, and because I like their content. Sometimes I'm not going to harass them and be like, oh, we got to be besties now because I think you're cool. I'll just say, I really appreciate your work and how you did this, and keep up the good work. And sometimes just a message like that it
means a lot. It
makes a big difference to somebody, and they're like, oh, okay, so this isn't all for nothing.
Right.
So yeah, support Arkheim. He definitely needs the help. He's trying to,
absolutely.
We all
I have an idea for really, I'm sorry, finish what you're saying, Dan.
No, go ahead, Nate. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest another show topic: suicide programming.
Oh, that's something I'm very familiar with.
And I mean, I don't know if I can go through a whole show with that, but whatever else is connected to it.
We could talk about all the different programming if you want. We could start with Omega programming.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's a lot of facets to it, isn't it? It isn't just what they're programming you to do. There's the love bite aspect where they want you to commit suicide, to get out of this life so you can be with somebody else. There's a lot of different variations of this crap, and I've been through quite a bit of it actually, and so has a lot of other people.
Well, do you think we should start wrapping this up, guys?
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think we did really good tonight. I mean, despite the late start, I was 5 minutes late.
Yeah, I really like this show. I think it's good.
Yeah, I feel like
it's going to do something positive.
Definitely talk more about, but maybe we'll do like a part 2 or something.
Yeah. This show will be going on every week.
Well, we started the sketch to a great masterpiece, right? Like you don't build
a never-ending discussion.
2 hours. We just started painting the Sistine Chapel here with our details. We keep going at it because that's what
we really appreciate you coming forward and being here.
Yeah, and sharing your
information. 3 interviews today, and then you still came on. You're a fucking legend,
You're
bro.
a champ.
And I want to let people know, people
thank you, Rob.
like Rob's like, if only 1% of humanity could have the heart of Rob, we'd be a lot better off as a species. He's a really good person. He's really dedicated to this, and I applaud him because I have a hard time. I just want to give up at times too. So good for you, Rob, and all the things that you do and the people that you help support their lives. You're doing good work. I forgot. That reminds me. I have my special message for you after. So I'll tell you.
Thanks. I appreciate it, guys. That means a lot. I mean, I'm lucky to have you guys as friends. Honestly, it means a lot. It really does. Sometimes I get lonely and I get depressed, and I don't want to be. I get lonely and depressed, and I'm like, fuck this, but then something keeps me going. I don't know, but it's things like that keep me going, So I appreciate it a lot,
Yeah. Well, it's hard when things like eating food give you pain. Things like that to be happy with your life.
Yeah. I know.
Well, I just want to say thanks to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Bill, for donating. Thank you, for everybody for being here, and we're gonna be here again next week. It's every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and we just have a chat like this. It's always usually more than one guest, and Nathan's always here. I guess he's like the co-host, or I'm the co-host. It was his idea, so yeah. But it was.
And Rob and Spinja for being on earlier too. They were awesome.
Yes, Rob. Or excuse me, Don Rogers and Spinja. They're awesome people, and it was great having them on the show. They both had to go to work, so that's why they couldn't stay for the whole thing. We're gonna wrap up the stream now.
Okay.
Thanks everybody, and I'm just